kids. It's time to get some SML podcast all up in that.
I also get to cut the lawn.
Right. No, that was entirely the reason for buying them, was because we have a hillside and we didn't want to weed eat it anymore.
That makes perfect sense.
To eat the hillside. But now the problem is that they're fat and they're spoiled, and they come up to the front door and they tap on it with their horns because they want you to give carrots.
Hey,
awesome.
we're sick of this grass shit. Give us some real food.
They like carrots and raisins.
So now you just got to plant carrots on the hill.
Yeah, that might help.
Make them earn that.
My male one, he can actually open the door. He knows how to push the button down and push the door open with his head.
Wow.
He just he's a big fucker too. Like they were like, he's a pygmy. He's not gonna get very big. Yeah, he still weighs every bit of 280 pounds though.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Please tell me you've woken up in the middle of the night to just see a goat standing above your bed.
I haven't. That's the problem too, because my room's on the other side of the house. But my daughter, their room is right here by the front door. And she's like, I'll wake her up for school. She'll be rubbing her eyes. And I'll be like, what's wrong with you? She's like, I'm so tired because Winchester opened the door last night. I had to check out.
Oh.
Like, it's good. It's building character.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the SML podcast. I am your host, Joe. Joining me today is a large variety of people. No CJ right now because he's out doing things. So in his place, I got two wonderful friends of mine to join me for this interview. First up is Ryan Underwood. Wood, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Doing good. A little tired. I mean, it is coming towards the end of my evening, but not too bad. I appreciate you having me on the show again.
It's what, like 9 o'clock out there right now?
It is. Yep. It is 9:10.
Nice. Also joining our good friend Eternal Rage, Cole Martin. Cole, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you.
That's it? Nothing else?
No, that's it. At this point, we should all just know that I'm just going to be like, hi, and that's all.
We got through the goat stuff already, so
yeah,
I guess you're good.
Talked about my goats.
And then special guest joining us today to talk about the pants-shittingly scary game Nevermind, Erin Reynolds. Erin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to be here.
And your company is Flying Mollusk, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
When I first heard the company name Flying Mollusk, I thought, hey, they're probably going to release like a goofy, funny game.
Oh, were you wrong?
And holy shit, was I wrong.
We like surprises, that's what we're all about.
Don't judge a game by the studio's name.
Seriously, good lord.
Very wise words.
For the people who don't know what Nevermind is, who have missed the number of times we've talked about it on the show, give us the sales pitch of what this game is.
Yeah, sure. So it's a adventure thriller game in which you play as like this neuroprober, which is sort of like a psychologist in the not too distant future. And you work with people who have experienced psychological trauma or PTSD, folks who experienced some event at some point in their life that they couldn't quite process what happened to them, so they've repressed any memories of it deep inside their subconscious. And so you as the neuroprober have to go into that psyche and kind of sleuth out the mystery of the trauma they experienced so that you can kind of put the pieces together and release that memory to your client so that they can work through it and start the path to healing. The trick with Nevermind, it's sort of this like creepy psychological twisted experience. It kind of has some horrific elements to it. So we would pretty much try to put you in a lot of intense situations and freak you out. And when you play it with one of our biofeedback technologies, which we support for the Mac or Windows version, The game can pick up indications of when you might start to be feeling scared or stressed or anxious, and it responds by becoming more punishing and more difficult to those sensations. The environment usually changes to kind of get in your way. And the key is that you have to learn how to calm down, because once the game detects that you're starting to relax a little bit, it gets easier. And so the big picture idea with that is that, while you're playing the game, you're kind of highly encouraged and motivated to become more aware of those feelings of stress so that you can kind of manage them on the fly and gain stress management techniques that work both in the game and hopefully in the real world as well. We also just released on Xbox One. We unfortunately don't have the biofeedback tech working in that version of it. It's just a straight up sort of adventure puzzle game on Xbox One. But that's kind of Nevermind in a nutshell.
Sounds good. Sounds frightening, which of course it is. You mentioned biofeedback technology. Now, this is what initially caught my interest with the whole, the game can change depending on how you're feeling. Now, I know Wood has put some time in with both using a camera and using a heart monitor.
Oh, cool.
So
that's hardcore, using both of them. That's awesome.
Wood, tell us your thoughts.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am the exact wrong person to be using those. No, because it's. I noticed this about I tend to I am the kind of high strung, kind of anxious, and it kind of catch me at the wrong time kind of stuff, right? So so my heart rate was always pretty high, and I think the camera's really smarter than a lot of my coworkers. So it's basically all right, cool. I need to settle down. I go through my breathing techniques and all this other stuff. Is nope, still fuzzy. Well, I guess I got to work through this. So it does a really good job. I like it a lot because it does add that metagame aspect of and it's done so well and actually being presented to the game, which is something I appreciate. Which is basically the game straight it tells you, by the way, any stress you're having is being picked up by a client, which is only going to make things worse. All right, cool. So it adds it's definitely a game within a game of all right, I got to relax so my client can relax so we can work through this. It was actually bad enough where I never found the body bag on the ground in the second level. I think patient 219, because there's milk everywhere. Which, out of context, makes no sense.
Right. It's a really hard game to describe to people because, I try to use examples, and then there's this one room where it's filling with milk, and I just get this, look. It's it makes sense in context.
Oh, yeah. It's, I've also struggled with that. It's oh, yeah, how's, I streamed Nevermind. Oh, how's that? It was good. So what'd you do? Oh, I helped a client figure out that her father didn't die in a car wreck. She actually watched him blow his brains out.
Right.
Wow, sounds like a fun game.
I know. It's it's really hard because it's a lot of kids ask me what do you do in game development and it's well, I make a game. They're tell us about the game.
No.
Well, I'll tell you when you're older.
But it's I do appreciate just how brilliant it is, really. It's both.
Thank you.
Both, yeah, it really is. It's both the presentation of everything, the concept of going to repressed memories, the biofeedback, adding another aspect to that is hey man, you can't be stressing out when talking to your client. You got to relax, right? So it's a brilliant combination of everything, and it's been highly recommended. Well, I mean, of course, it's highly recommended if you want to take on some really heavy content. If not, hey man, Sonic's a good game. But it's I appreciate it's taking a very heavy concept and making a really good, solid game out of it.
Oh, thank you. That it's really nice to hear. Thank you. It's a lot of love went into it, so it's always appreciated to hear when folks kind of appreciate what we're trying to do with it, and that means a lot to us. So thank you.
Oh, not a problem. I did have a question of how'd you guys come with the concept? I mean, it's that seems to be. I'm honestly trying to think of other horror tropes that comes from them. It's nothing really coming to mind. What made you guys really delve into this sort of thinking which led to this gameplay?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. Well, not really funny story, but there's the journey of Nevermind is kind of interesting, I guess. It actually started as my master's thesis in grad school, where I went to a 3-year program, and your final year is your thesis year, where you can kind of work on whatever game concept you want, which is awesome. And I had worked in the game industry for a few years before going back to grad school, so I knew I loved game design, but I kind of wanted to work on weirder things than the standard commercial stuff. And so specifically, I went into my thesis year with 3 goals. One, to make a game that was really cool that people would want to play, but also gave back to players in some way, shape, or form, kind of benefited the player. I call putting it like cheese on the broccoli, you know. I wanted to make a game that used biofeedback, because it was something I dabbled with a couple years prior to my thesis year. But at that time, it's like 2009 or something. There wasn't like enough advancements in biofeedback technology and in game engines to really get the two to kind of talk to each other easily. But then, you know, back in 2011, when I first started this, I was like, let's go see what's out now. And like, we found enough advancements had taken place that we could hack something together. So like, cool, let's do that. And then finally, I really wanted to work on a game that had sort of a horror aesthetic, because it's a genre that I've always loved, and I've always kind of been drawn towards. But prior to going to grad school, I actually had worked at Disney, so there wasn't a lot of opportunities to flex that muscle. So I was I was like, God damn it, I'm going to make a horror game now because I can. And so really kind of started with those 3 goals. And then it became like, okay, well, how do we combine these really kind of seemingly like separated goals into one cohesive product? And you know, I had a lot of really great advisors, and one of them brought up, you know, she talked to me about, you know, psychological trauma and PTSD and how that can manifest. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect, because I mean, one, it fits sort of these goals in many ways, but also it gives us an opportunity to, you know, try to make an effort to destigmatize PTSD and really make people aware of psychological trauma. Because I think, you know, a lot of people hear PTSD and they think of like combat PTSD, which of course is a serious issue, but it's actually something that's much broader than that. You know, it impacts a lot of people. And so if we can use the game as a vessel to kind of, you know, call attention to it and kind of help people understand it a little bit better or gain an interest in understanding it better, then that's amazing. And so it's kind of all kind of cohered from there. And then we just kind of, you know, went for it.
Yeah, it's, no, I think it's brilliant. I've actually met more people who've had PTSD, not even really into military too much, but it's you know, it's having met more people with that. It's like, it's how serious it is, and it's good to see a game like approach it as a therapy tool. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words, like how much I kind of appreciate, like.
Oh, thank you.
I just heard a random noise and I thought it was a goat.
No. I was trying to mute the dogs. I'm sorry.
No worries. Also, like, it's funny because it's the first time I heard about this game was actually when I think Joe actually approached me to review it, and then I was like, wait, where's the other videos about this? And I think I saw there's a pre-alpha. I think it was an alpha video. I think when it was a Kickstarter, I saw that one. I was like, wow, the game would change a lot.
Yeah. I think that video that's from the student version of it. So we made that one academic year with like a student team. So it's evolved quite a bit from there. But the student version actually is client 251. We just revamped the entire thing. So it's kind of cool to be able to keep that line throughout the development journey.
I might have used that video to cheat a little bit, because I was having a lot of problems with the save.
Yep, that's the hardest puzzle. That's where most people get stuck. Yep.
And then like once I see it's like, oh my god, it makes perfect sense. And the thing I appreciate is like that save puzzle fits in with the entire theme of what's going on, which is like, again, brilliant. It's you know, I forgot to look up that phobia the client actually has.
Scopophobia.
Yeah. So it was interesting. Like, it's like that puzzle, and then everything that comes up with it, and it's. Oh, by the way, that milk carton was the funniest and freakiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
What was the phobia?
Scopophobia.
And what is that? For the people
who
don't know.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's the fear of being watched, the fear of being looked at, which makes sense when you get, towards the end of the level and everything comes together.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels like somebody's watching me.
That's about right. But yeah, no, thanks for noticing those details. It's, when in making the game, one of the things that we really wanted to make sure we were always focusing on is making sure that every component of the level somehow spoke to the trauma, or the misremembered aspect of the trauma in some cases.
Yes.
So that like every detail, whether it was the biofeedback reaction, whether it was, just, text on something, the music, the art, obviously, kind of wrapped around the trauma story. So it's always good to hear when people notice those details, because I think there's a lot in there, and so some of them are harder to catch than others. I'm glad you noticed the milk carton, because that one we had a lot of fun writing. It's hard because you have to put yourself in this really dark space to make a game like this, and especially when it comes to the writing, especially with the final level. That it's a brutal place to be creatively, but it's an interesting it's an interesting place to be creatively as well. So.
Oh, definitely. It's I apologize. I still haven't been able to go through the rest of it just because.
Oh, that's fine.
This is not a game I actually want to stream the rest of.
Yeah.
Unless I'm trying to show out the VR, because I feel this is a game that everyone needs to experience.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So it's my other question is it's the tutorial. The tutorial level is it's funny because you never mentioned the names Hansel or Gretel.
Huh?
But as soon as you get through it, it's like, oh, it's Hansel and Gretel. It's
yep.
I find it very funny because it's I guess like a lot of people get through that and they base their opinion on the game on that one.
Yeah.
When it's completely supposed to be a softball level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, and even then, it's I also noticed that it's everything, like every little puzzle you're doing in the tutorial harkens back to some aspect of the story, which I felt like was actually really great as well. Like it's like, wait, why am I putting these loaves of bread on these animal statues? Like, oh my god, that's right, because all the animals ate the breadcrumbs when they got lost. That's right. So So why don't you guys decide hey, as a softball, let's just do Hansel and Gretel. Like what was your thinking on that one?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we wanted the introductory level to be a little more mild, because we wanted to ease people into it first and foremost, because it really isn't a game for everybody, as you guys mentioned. Like it gets pretty intense pretty quickly, and so we wanted to make sure that if this is too much for some folks, then they should stop right here.
Okay.
But also we chose that narrative of Hansel and Gretel because. The gameplay of Nevermind is a little bit unusual in some ways, in that you're finding the memories and you have to put the story together at the end. And so we wanted to stick with a fairy tale that people would eventually recognize, and then they would more easily see oh, this is what the trauma is. So they can kind of learn sort of how Nevermind works within the context of a narrative that most people are already familiar with, to kind of help bridge that gap of knowledge. And so then when we put them into another client, like 251, where things are way more twisted and way more confusing, that they've already had a rep with it in a more familiar context. And we chose Hansel and Gretel, one, because that would be so much fun to make. Such a great story, and then two, because it's fairly international as well. And so our hope was that it was something that would cross as many cultural lines as possible. That whether you play it in the US or the UK or Japan or something, hopefully players were familiar with that story to an extent.
Okay, fantastic. Because I think it's because I did the tutorial. I figured out, it did allow me to figure out, okay, well, what pictures am I supposed to be put together? Is it's the ones that make a story.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And, gotcha. All right. And it was again, there's a lot of very deliberate game design I'm really appreciating. Obviously, it's
awesome.
Did I say I really liked your game a lot?
No, you didn't.
Okay,
that's awesome. No, it's great. Yeah, thank you.
I did want to go back a bit to the biofeedback technology that we talked about briefly earlier. I know it works with VR on Steam, Linux, Windows, all that stuff.
Not Linux yet.
Not Linux yet. Okay. I'm not a PC guy, so I just lumped that shit together. What brands of VR does it support right now?
Well, right now, it supports Oculus Rift and HTC Vive.
There you go. No Pulse. He's a Vive guy.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, and really the only trick, like almost any biofeedback sensory support for Windows should work for VR. There's a couple of exceptions. For example, the emotion biofeedback that uses a webcam obviously won't work because it can't see your face if you have a giant helmet on. So that won't work. We support this really cool tech called Intel RealSense, which can get your heart rate through basically a camera-like technology. But again, that won't work because it can't see your face with a VR headset on. But anything that is like a wearable, like Apple Watch or the Polar Chest Strap, should work fine with either the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive version of Nevermind.
Yeah, I know our one listener, No Pulse, big fan of our show and big supporter of a lot of Vive stuff in particular. Like if something comes out for Vive that we're talking about and we're supportive of it, there's a very good chance he's going to pick it up and try it.
Awesome.
So you might have a sale hanging out in our chat room right now.
That would be awesome. And I would, if he is interested in playing it with biofeedback, on our website we have a list of all the sensors that it supports, and we I think note on which ones are compatible with it. So definitely check that out. If that's something that is of interest. But yeah, like biofeedback in VR is a trippy experience. It's something else, because like you start to get stressed, and then you have like this symbolism of your anxiety like surrounding you entirely. It's an interesting feedback loop. It's cool.
It is cool, but I have to say, like, because I'm always stressed out. Mm-hmm. It does make the game really hard.
Yeah.
It was amazing watching Wood stream the game, because he already said that he's more of like a high-strung kind of guy naturally, and just the entire time he was playing, the screen was like staticky, and then like the screen he would be getting frustrated with the static, and then it would start going red, and it would piss him off even more. And he's like, this fucking game, god damn it, why is it going red again? And I'm like, Wood, the game is winning right now. It's
well, and that's like totally by design, right? Because like we're trying to build up these scenarios that are, kind of train you for real life, for lack of a better term. And so like in real life, when you start to get stressed or anxious, things rarely get easier. And so we kind of build in this brutal, punishing, feedback loop where the more stressed you get, the harder it gets, which just makes you even more stressed. And so it's all about finding your happy place, finding your zen zone.
The voice would come over like, take 5 deep breaths. He's like, I don't want to take a fucking deep breath. Why are you turning red? You were just fine. And it just he was getting so pissed, and I couldn't help but laugh harder and harder every time he would scream at the game more.
That was pretty funny.
And then he eventually got to like calm down, and the screen would go back to normal, and he's like, oh, okay, I'm all right. Yeah, now I'm getting this. I'm getting what I have to do. So eventually it clicks after you quote unquote die a handful of times. It just sinks in that, hey, getting mad at the game is what the game wants.
Yep. Absolutely. That's good. I'm glad to hear that it worked in a way. So that's what we aim to do.
But again, that shit was hilarious to watch.
It really was.
I missed out on that on the Xbox, and so I'm bummed about it still. Because it was just like, I want to get mad at it too.
Are there any ways that you can try bringing any of the biofeedback technology to Xbox? Carnage hanging out in the chat room. He's a budding streamer that a couple people may have heard of.
Fucking Joe stole my question too. I just want to point that out, because I was about to ask that.
Which one?
Because with using biofeedback on the Xbox, where it uses the ultimate Windows platform, then wouldn't it be possible maybe through some roundabout ways to include it as well, so that it could pick up a sensor from another app maybe?
Yeah, no, that is an excellent question. It's actually, so it was originally we planned to bring biofeedback to Xbox One, and we worked really hard on it for like 2 years, and it's such a heartbreak because it's absolutely technically feasible through a couple of ways. We actually originally started Nevermind. We started the commercial version, so taking the student version of the game to something that we could actually release. We launched a Kickstarter, And prior to the Kickstarter, we obviously had heard all the news about the Kinect 2.0 and how it can read heart rate, and we're like, oh my god, that's amazing, that's perfect, And so our plan was to use that functionality. And at the time of the Kickstarter, we reached out to Microsoft. We're like, hey guys, like, is this true? And they're like, yeah, it is. And we're like, awesome. And then when we got to the point, a year or so after that, I was like, okay, we're ready to implement this. It's absolutely technically feasible, but there were just a number of circumstantial roadblocks that just got in the way. I'm always very cagey in how I describe it. One, because some of the stuff is NDA protected, but also I don't want it to be perceived that like anyone's to blame. It's something that I think everybody involved was really excited about. It's just some really unfortunate circumstances that just things didn't align. So we tried a number of things with the Kinect and outside the Kinect, and we would get close a few times, but then just something just wouldn't quite click, and then we'd have to move on to plan C, then plan D, then plan. And so it was like 2 years of working really hard on this, and we eventually just had to release the game. But I think it is absolutely possible technically. It's just a matter of again, just getting certain things to align. And so we're hopeful that either we have the opportunity to bring biofeedback to Xbox One in a future update, although I can't make any promises right now, or that another developer does. Because I think that once that happens, and people start getting more and more used to biofeedback in games, because right now it's sort of a weirdo thing, but I think as it becomes more prevalent, people are going to realize like there's just so much you can do with it, and we kind of take the low-hanging fruit of like, it's a horror game that, looks at your heart rate, but there's like so many more subtle things you can do, or more like oddball things you can do with it. And I think once that becomes more accessible on console, it's already become very accessible for Windows and Mac, which is great. And then once it also is brought to console, I think it's something that it's just going to take off from there. So I'm hoping that, whether it's us or someone else, like it's the code is cracked essentially, figuratively speaking, so that it can happen. So that's a very long way to say fingers crossed. Hopefully one day soon.
Are you going to be looking into trying to get it to work with HoloLens at all? I know that's what Carnage specifically was curious about.
Yeah, I mean, HoloLens sounds awesome. I've yet to actually experience HoloLens myself, but everything I've heard about it sounds amazing. Like everyone who's tried it has been really impressed with it. We haven't had a chance to, look at it or get our hands on a dev kit, so it's hard to say without getting that far. But if given the opportunity to look into it, we absolutely would, because, we're big new technology geeks, obviously, so we'd love to give it a shot.
What about any kind of VR chances with the Scorpio? Is that anything that you might know about, or is that still too far away to know anything?
Yeah, I don't know enough about that to really be able to say either way. But again, if given the opportunity and the resources, we'd be all for it. Because again, like it sounds like, just from like the basic rumors I've heard online, it sounds like cool tech, and so. And since we already have a VR version of Nevermind, it's kind of like why not? So hopefully, but again, like I just don't know enough about it right now to be able to say for sure either way.
Hopefully by E3 we'll know more about what the hell's going on with the Scorpio and what it supports and all that other stuff.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm sure we'll have more information, or maybe even as soon as the Game Developers Conference. Who knows? But I'm excited to kind of see what that's all about. I have a feeling there's going to be some cool stuff coming out with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping at some point I'll be able to experience this game in VR as well. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Was there any like challenges in going from like your builds, and then like did you have any aha moments like, dude, let's do this in VR?
Yeah, well, we always wanted to bring it to VR from the start, and
okay.
And one of our team members is actually, he's been working in VR for a while, and so he is our VR designer. So like all along, as we're going through it, we're like, okay, this will be awesome in VR. This will definitely need to change in VR. So like the VR version of Nevermind is slightly different than the flat screen, the non-VR version of it. and that we've made some adjustments to kind of enhance the VR experience and, reduce the barf effect. We would we'd go through the game and mark certain moments on a barf bag level. So it's like, this is 1 barf bag, this is a 5 barf bag area, we need to change it. But there are certain things that we thought of this especially will be really cool in VR. And so we kind of built some things with that in mind from the get-go. There's, especially in the later 2 levels, I won't say anything about it to not spoil anything, but working in VR is super cool, and a whole different way of developing games too, because you go from, because I've been making games for over 10 years now. And so, I have in my crusty old brain, you just put up a heads-up display in one of the upper corners, easy peasy. But in VR, there are no upper corners. So it's well, crap, what do we do with this? And you're there's really, it's so new, which is exciting, but you're kind of making up the rules as you go along. And so, it's kind of terrifying in that way too, because you have no idea if what you're doing is a good idea or not. So you just have to keep testing it. And one of the great things with the way games are released now is that you get instant feedback from players through forums and outreach. And so we listen to all of that really carefully so that we can help kind of continue to improve it and work through sort of these unknowns and make it better as much as we can, which is really cool. That's not something that us game developers had for, up until fairly recently.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting the VR. It's I remember playing the garbage VR, and I keep forgetting it's now actually at an economically viable, gameplay viable version of VR, and I keep forgetting that's really freaking new right now. Yeah. And it's been a constant challenge for, like you mentioned, the rules you get away with in traditional, monitored game design kind of go out the window with VR, just like in filmmaking, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like you're it's a very similar thing. We'll just throw in 3D. It's no, that doesn't work. Right. The rules are a little bit different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even beyond just kind of the technical considerations and the logistics of it, just the experience overall, it's a whole different ballgame. For example, horror games in VR are really a different experience than horror games on flat screen. Because I'm a pretty seasoned horror game player. It takes, especially after working on Nevermind for 6 years, it takes a lot to really scare me. But I played this one horror game in VR. It was a really cool one. I highly recommend it, called Dead Secret. And I could only play it for about maybe 15 minutes at a time. And it would just feel so intense that I would have to take a break, go get an ice cream cone, relax a little bit, and then go back into it, because you're immersed in it. And so when you're playing a game or watching a scary movie, you can just close your eyes or press pause, and you're back home and, you have a cat on your lap and all is good. But in VR, it's you can't close your eyes because it's still all around you. It's so intense. So that's an interesting finding that I didn't anticipate kind of going into the VR version of Nevermind. Luckily for us, we're much more of a creepy game than a really more traditional horror, jump scare, blood guts everywhere type of game. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's okay. But I think one thing that a lot of game developers will need to keep in mind going forward is that VR it ratchets up the intensity just by default, 10 levels. And so it's something that it's just gonna be interesting to kind of see what people do with that. Maybe everyone just gets used to it and it's no big deal, a year or so from now. But I don't know. It's a fascinating area.
I'm getting very nervous because I have Resident Evil 7 coming in for PlayStation for the VR.
Yes.
Yes. I have not tried.
You are braver than I.
I have not tried any of the demos, and I've been trying to find one of the collector's editions of Resident Evil 7 so I could get that baller looking house thing. And they were able to find me a PlayStation version instead of an Xbox, because normally I prefer Xbox stuff. Mm-hmm. But I was like, PlayStation has the VR version. Why not? That's a little extra bonus. Mm-hmm. So whenever that shows up, I probably won't be doing the show anymore because I'll have a funeral planned.
So just drink a lot before going into it.
Oh yeah,
that might increase the barf bag rating, though.
True. That's
lay
true.
some plastic down on the couch before I start going.
Yep.
Well, I'll be very interested to hear what you think of it if and when you do play it, because I'm not sure that I'd be able to handle it, to be honest.
I don't think I can handle it either. I don't know why the fuck I'm doing this.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason I'm trying to do the fundraiser so I can get a Vive, so I can play all these apparently ratcheted up horror games for Vive. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same reasoning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a different experience. It's not like, it's not the difference of playing a game on, 360 versus Xbox One. It's the difference of seeing a TV show and seeing a play. It's completely.
Oh yeah, true. Ooh, that's a good way of putting it. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's just a whole different thing.
Speaking of the VR, No Pulse was asking if the Vive version of the game uses the motion controllers or just the Xbox controller.
No, we support the Vive controllers. Just the default Vive controllers, and the Xbox controller as well. Whatever is most comfortable for the player.
Do you have any kind of like motion tech in the game, or is it just for controlling?
I mean, we have some. It's a game like this doesn't really need anything too fancy motion wise. So we kind of stuck with what would feel the most intuitive. So, for example, you can highlight an object, and once a pickup object comes to you, you can rotate it around and look at it, and then put it back. So there are certainly games out there that use the motion controls in much more unique ways, but for Nevermind, we didn't really feel like overdoing it would benefit the game at all. So we kept it pretty straightforward.
It was the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Exactly.
Well, and again, because the rules are so new right now, that we didn't want to, try something that we thought was really cool and then overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
It's just let's just stick with what we know is a good experience, and then, but it's as you work on these, you have ideas for other games. It's oh man, it'd be really cool if we could do this with the Vive controller, for a different title. So, you learn a lot.
Now, I mentioned PlayStation. Are you guys looking into a PlayStation VR version of the game?
Yeah, we would love to bring it to PlayStation and PSVR for sure. And it is something that we've been looking into. It's just a matter of, one, we wanted to see if we could find a way to bring biofeedback to PlayStation, and two, just getting the resources to kind of make it all happen as well. Because even though the content's all there, bringing a game to another console is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that if we start down that path, we're able to finish it. And so we're kind of, we're exploring the opportunity. It's definitely something we want to do. We're not ready to make any promises yet, but if we're given the chance to do it, or if we have the chance to do it and the ability to do it, we definitely would love to pursue that.
Nice, because if it shows up on PlayStation VR, I will gladly scar my mind once again to try it out in virtual reality.
Oh yeah, it's as you look at the milk carton.
Personally, I think everybody should scar their mind at least once anyway. So
yeah, it's character
good for the soul.
Oh yeah.
Cole, did you have any other questions to ask?
I did. Now that you've asked me, I forgot.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, it's.
I've waited all this time so patiently. Oh,
you can't just wait. You have to just jump, force your way into the conversation.
I know. I'm too flat for my own good. It's my southern side. God damn it. How did you guys decide the phobias that you included?
Oh, that's a cool question. So we have a list of 15 to 20 level ideas with different trauma stories that we all want to make eventually. And so we picked the ones that we did that are out there initially, just I don't know, because I guess the team, we just all felt strongly about them. We did a lot of research going into developing the game in the first part, just research on trauma and PTSD and psychology, and so none of the stories are based on actual people, but a lot of the issues that are presented in it are issues that people face and are rooted in real world. And so we try to pick stories that are relatable, but also maybe something that it can offer a perspective on a circumstance that maybe people haven't considered. So something that would be interesting in that way. And yeah, we just picked the levels that we did because either they were just those particular ones were of interest to us at the time of making it, or maybe it was a scoping thing. But we have a huge list of other ones that we want to build. So it's kind of you have to kind of pick which children you like the best, I guess, to start out with. And then we have other ones that we're hoping to build as well. Not to say that they're inferior to the ones that we picked. It's just we had to pick the ones we had to pick because you can only build so many times.
DLC.
Yeah, we really,
I definitely want DLC.
yeah, we really want to build more levels. I mean, we envision Nevermind as being at least a 10-level game. And there's like an overarching narrative too that we want to tie into it that involves the Neurostalgia Institute and what you're doing there. Right now it's very open-ended, but we actually have like a whole finale planned, and but we want to have a few more levels in there before we start down that path. So that's sort of kind of where we would like to go next with the game. And we'll see. It just depends again on when you're a tiny, 4-person studio. A lot depends on resources and just the practicalities of it. So if we can build more levels, we absolutely will. Because again, we have so many more trauma stories that we want to tell and get out there. So fingers crossed that they're coming in the not too distant future.
Your mention of a finale happening in the Institute has me intrigued as well, because I felt like this is such a big area with so much potential to do things in there, and it just seems like you just go to the one room and then that's it.
Yep. Yeah. No. We have ideas for what's behind like Sector C and some areas that you don't necessarily interact with initially, but you might in the future. So hopefully.
I am sad that you could not push the button on the water fountain to make water go.
Yeah, everyone wants to do that, or pull the fire alarm. And we thought about adding a thing where if you pull the fire alarm, it just quits the game. But then we're like, people are going to do that and think that it crashed or something like that. So,
that would be amazing.
Yeah. So maybe we'll include that in an update.
I do appreciate you added in transgender bathrooms. Like, that's the first thing I noticed when I was walking through the office in that game.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because we see this as being, an institute of the not too distant future, and so to us, we feel like, in a few years, hopefully, that's something that's just going to be, in all places. So we wanted to reflect that. But it was actually something that wasn't originally in the game. That came in a later update. It was like one day we were just like playing the game and like, you know what? Why are we doing this? Let's just include the transgender and the handicapped bathrooms in there. I think it'll make the institute feel more modern than it does, and so we were very happy to make that update.
Yeah, I feel like it was a nice little touch. Like I liked it.
Thank you.
It's something else I noticed. Like, for some reason I was just thinking about this, right? Because again, when you complete those levels, the clients that like it kind of sticks with you. And I remember like the finale. Actually, if you watched my stream, I was crying. Well, yeah, it was because it came down to like it's. I think there's this stigma that like especially with like whenever you see like things with like depression in movies, it's always like, well, I don't want to go anywhere. Well, I'm going to force you out in this party. You're going to have a time of your life. You're going to be happy.
Right.
Which is never how it works, right? And it's but like there's similar stuff with like it's people who are suffering from like real psychological trauma. Where we think like, oh, we have the big reveal. Now you're ready. Now you're healed. Now you're ready to go. No, that client was not good. We got to the source of the trauma, but at the same point, like she's having to come to terms. Like it's part of the process of having to come to terms of what happened. And yeah, that still sticks to me to this day. Aww. It's just like, yeah, it does, because again, like it's like it goes from like, well, yeah, my dad is around, but he's not. And yeah, it just feels weird. And I just wish people would stop looking at me to like, no, you watched something really bad happen. And now you got to deal with it. And it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the client's better for it, but the same point is like, oh no.
Yeah. Now the healing begins. The hard path sort of starts. And that's actually kind of based on, that whole element is based on what can happen to some people when they experience a traumatic event, is that they can repress those memories. And, there's certain thought in psychology where, the only way for them to deal with this really is to confront those memories, to remember what happened and really work through it. And so we wanted to reflect that kind of element that is based in reality into the game, and yeah, kind of, send the message that, PTSD and psychological trauma, that's not something that you can like just fix overnight.
No,
it's
not.
a hard process.
Not at all. Yeah. I think it's a really good message to say. It's like part of it is like the stigma and just letting people know is like, hey man, I know you got through this hard stuff, but like, no, it gets really freaking hard.
Mm-hmm. And there's ups and downs with it as well. Like, I mean, if we had, maybe this will be part of the extended version. I'd love to have more about sort of the client's process as well, so that you have even more, like maybe a check-in. Like you get the thank you notes when you complete a client, but even have more of a check-in so you can kind of learn more about their progress, because you have this sort of intimate experience with each client. And then you're like, well, bye.
Yeah, true.
So I'd like to kind of show their journey as well in some way, shape, or form. I'm not exactly sure how we would do that, but it is something that I think would be nice to do.
I think like a note system would be good, or tie it back into the I never got a chance to actually like figure out how to do the advanced neuro. I did discover like some images, like some things that are like tying into that. Mm-hmm. Where you find like, because they feel like the sort of Easter egg stuff, but they're supposed to be tying into, especially how you put the dialogue in there,
mm-hmm.
right? It's specifically like there's a letter, like there's a word remember in the pews of like the client,
mm-hmm.
and it's for some reason it's not unlocking for me in the actual game, but I think it's tied to the words like, was the funeral inside or outside?
Mm-hmm.
To let you know, even though there's an even deeper level of repression there that you're also trying to unlock.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know why. I maybe it's just because I'm having problems like just unlocking that part. But yeah, I still think that's also a very nice touch too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's I guess as far as the advanced neuromapping goes, it's definitely meant like everything's very varied, and it's meant to be quite a difficult Easter egg hunt, but it's kind of a fun way to sort of unlock more of the now that the client has remembered the trauma, kind of putting together the pieces of the details of it, and kind of reading more and more about it. So there is a speaking of neuromapping, there is a bug that we recently became aware of in Xbox One, where one of the pieces is actually like embedded in a wall, so you can't actually see it.
Wow!
Levels, I know, it's like as a developer, there's nothing more heartbreaking than that. So we're working on a fix. So if anyone is listening to this and is looking for a piece in I think it's the 3rd level, then there you can email us and I'll point you in the right direction for it, and we have a fix coming soon. I promise.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, it's it's the nature of you test you test as much as you can, but you get so used to seeing the game that your eyes get tired on it. It's like like reviewing a paper that you've written for the 20th time. After a while, you don't notice the typos and that kind of stuff. So. It's actually I love watching Let's Plays of it. I try to catch as many of them as I can, in part because it's just really fun to watch, and it's great feedback to kind of hear what people dig and what they don't dig in real time. And it's also a really great way to find bugs that I've missed, because that's like when I notice all of them, it's like, oh, that shouldn't be there.
Did you watch Wood's playthroughs?
I didn't. I was out and away from my computer when I was there, and I think the rest of the team, they were all out and about, so I couldn't get back in time for it. But I forgot. Is there like a YouTube video of it or somewhere I can like watch it? And
not yet. I'll have to. It's actually I should be able to upload it for you guys at some point. It's still on my Twitch archive right now.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So and I recommend like the second one, because the first one. I'm still in support talk with XSplit because is what it is, but it works just fine in OBS. And hopefully XSplit's just gonna update. It's like, okay, we got what's going on. Let's release this in an extra because it's just a compatibility thing at that, or rather whatever technology uses to capture the game. But yeah, it's the second one's much smoother, and plus it goes to the meat and potatoes of the game.
Cool.
Because so.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Hey,
good.
Wood, if you have a link to the stream, throw it in the chats.
I can throw it in at least the Twitch chat, so stand by real quick.
And then people watching, they could see it, and I'll try reposting it in Beam, I guess.
I guess. I'll throw it up into the Twitch chat then.
I had a quick question about the Xbox version. I've had a number of frame rate stutters in some of the busier areas. I couldn't tell if it was the game just having frame drops or if it's like part of the messing with you aspect.
Sure, whichever one you would choose for it to be. No, admittedly, there are a few areas where the game takes a bit longer to think about what's going on. Especially to bring it to VR, we did a lot of performance optimizations, but there were a few things that just, for whatever reason, we couldn't quite get as smooth as we wanted to. So that's one area that we're hoping to improve eventually. A lot of it depends on updates that come out with the Unity engine, which is what it's built in, and so we're always keeping an eye out for ways to improve that. But yeah, if you want to choose to believe that's part of the game messing with you, that's cool too.
Sounds good. That's what I'll pretend.
Yeah, frame rate is in the eye of the beholder, I believe.
The human eye can't see anything above like 15. So.
Good times.
Oh man, did either of you have any other questions about the game, or did you want to chat about some other stuff? We could talk about goats more.
I'm always down for talking more about goats. Can we have a client that has a fear of goats?
I'll see what I can do. I like that idea. Actually, there is a couple of ideas, and these would be ideally one of the upcoming ones, the soon upcoming ones we would like to work on that do involve animals and possibly goats. So your dream may come true.
Yes.
And I love goats. Like, goats are great. I recently heard an NPR. I don't know, something on the radio with an interview with a guy who wanted to live the life of a goat. Like, I only caught like the tail end of it, but it was so weird that like I need to learn more about this. Like, he actually went out like in the pastures and like ate grass with the goats, slept with the goats, had like weird contraption.
Slept with the goats? What?
Not like that's with a goat. Wink, wink. But, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I only caught the last half of the interview, so maybe that's the thing. But it was the most bizarre, kind of amazing thing ever. So I need to find like out more what's up with that. But yeah.
I don't know. Mine likes to sleep on car windshields. So
really, in your car. Well, it's
actually, there's a chip in my mother-in-law's windshield. I think Winchester might have done it.
Oh, God damn it.
He also likes to get in their boat, so anything is possible.
It's amazing.
So Winchester is attacking vehicles, breaking into houses, staring over people while they sleep.
Yeah.
If you simulator is actually honest then.
Yeah, Winchester is nightmare fuel.
If you do an animal level in the game for one of the clients, you need to make the client's name Winchester.
Winchester. Okay. I will make a note of this. I like this idea.
You're welcome.
It's a good name too.
So I know you said that you're a developer for about 10 years now. What other games have you worked on?
Oh, gosh. Well, early in my career, I mentioned I worked at Disney Interactive. And so there was a time in my life where there was a lot of cheetah girls and Hannah Montana, which may explain a few things.
Oh, so you got to work on the good Disney games.
Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun.
That's your own PTSD.
Exactly. No, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed. You learn a lot about kind of branding and it was a really good experience. I really enjoyed it. And one of the last games I worked on there was a game called Ultimate Band for the Nintendo DS, which is sort of like Rock Band but on a DS, which was really cool because we got to pick like real music, and so I got to be in charge of choosing a lot of the songs that were used in it. So I was able to get Rock Lobster in there, which I'm still very proud of to this day.
Yes.
So good. So good. So that was a lot of fun. And then, let's see, in grad school, I was able to work on this project where it was sort of like Pokemon, but intended to help players, it was meant for children, learn how to adopt healthy eating and exercise habits. And that one actually went on. We submitted to a competition out of the White House, and it went on and won a couple awards there, which was really great. Not only because that was a cool experience, but also, my thing is games that sort of give back, like edgy games that are fun to play, but also impart something onto the player beyond just entertainment. And so it was really nice to get that formal recognition that other folks are interested in that kind of thing too. And then after I graduated from grad school, so I worked on Nevermind as my thesis project. I actually took a break from Nevermind and worked at Zynga for about a year, believe it or not, on Zynga Poker. So that was a very different swap, but again, a really great experience, especially because of the Zynga.org division of Zynga, which does a lot of stuff with games that contribute to charities, was awesome. And then I left Zynga to start flying Mollusk and work on Nevermind full time. So that's sort of kind of the highlight overview of all the bizarre, very different titles I've worked on in my career. But, you learn a lot from each experience. And so it may not seem like it, but, some things I learned from Disney and some ththings I learned from Zynga, like all made its way into Nevermind and made it a better game for it, I think.
I'd say so. It's because, again, like I still feel the being able to tie all your concepts into actual gameplay is still brilliant. I think it's one of the best things you can do in a video game.
Oh, thank you. And
problem.
I can't take all the credit as well. Like I'm the one talking here, but it's a game that had a lot of our team members and advisors. There's a lot of love that went into it from a lot of different sources. So one thing that's been really cool about it is that the core team throughout development has more or less been about 4 people. So
oh wow.
Yeah,
Jeez,
so really small team with a lot of hats. So like there's me, and I'm like the creative director and lead game designer and writer and 2D artist, and then we have our engineer who's the programmer and also our animator, and he also has a writing background, and then the VR design lead I mentioned, he's also was our producer and did a lot of our academic research and clinical research outreach. And then we had one 3D artist who did all of the environment art that you see. So like everybody has their fingerprints and their input and ideas in the game. So even though I'm the one talking, it's really it was a sort of a baby of 4 more people.
Okay. Oh, so that means since you're the 2D artist, you actually did all the artwork for like Bill Carton.
Yeah, I think
that must have been fun.
Did that, but I did the writing for it, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, my parents haven't played the game yet, and I'm kind of okay with it.
Who do we blame for the giant room of faces?
Oh, that was me. So that's actually kind of a funny story.
Fuck you.
Yes. Oh, please tell.
So when the student version, again, this is like 2011, and in the student version, I was the only artist. Well, that's not true. We had a team of students we worked with who did the Neurostalgia Institute in the original student version, and then I did all the art for the actual level itself, 3D and 2D, and we had to figure out what the transition from that like car intestinal maze bit was back to the yard area. And we needed something there. And it was like the night before we had to like lock the game down, like I'm stressed out because like, I don't know what to put in there. I couldn't think of anything that was relevant. And then like just kind of in like a sleep deprived haze, I was like, what about giant like faces of the mother screaming, kind of representing this moment of like, the fecal matter hitting the air cooling device, and then again, like I woke up the next morning, I was so tired when I put it in there, I didn't even remember doing that.
Air cooling device.
Think about it. That is brilliant. That's brilliant pun. It's
so, but yeah, so and then it just kind of evolved over there. So, and that room has really evolved. Like look at the academic version compared to the version we released in 2015, compared to the updated version that we released in October 2016. And that room has gone through a lot of major changes.
Oh, it is drastically different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It
is drastically different. Oh my God.
So that's one of our favorite areas, as you can probably tell.
I used that section as actually part of a highlight video.
Cool.
Just walking in like, why are they all staring at me?
Yeah, no, I think I ended that thing with the oh my God, they're staring at me.
Was it difficult to decide what aspects were going to have to be cut out of the Xbox version because of the lack of the biofeedback?
Actually, it wasn't too bad because you can play the Windows and Mac version game without biofeedback as well. So if you happen to not own any of the heart rate sensors we support, or you don't have a webcam, then you can still play the game just as like a kind of an adventure puzzle game. And so the Xbox version was basically that. So that was already sort of scoped out more or less. Trying to think if there's anything. We did try to find ways to sort of, I hate to use the word fake, but I guess trigger the biofeedback responses with any sensor at all. And we felt like everything that we tried with that just felt hokey and gimmicky, and I think it detracted. It became more of a distraction in a lot of our playtests than something that benefited the game. So we removed it altogether, but it's still something we think about every so often. And of course, we still want to find a way to just get the biofeedback working in the Xbox. That would be the ideal. So,
I did notice when Carnage streamed Nevermind versus when I played it, there were slight differences. Like, he was a little more erratic of a player at it. Mm-hmm. He was a little more jumpy and nervous, and it seemed like it was a little noticeable in the way events turned out compared to him versus how I played, because he found things and he experienced things in his game that I didn't. Mm-hmm. Despite,
And was he also on Xbox?
He was also on Xbox. It was just minor little things that I would pick up and be like, that didn't happen for me, or that was a little different for me. It was just little minor things.
Like what kind of stuff?
There was, his puzzle was different. The gun safe puzzle. For him, the gun safe was already unlocked from the jump, and for me, I had to sleuth through the whole thing.
Oh wow!
That was actually a bug.
Probably a bug.
Which is another kind of fix.
It's a feature. No, it's a feature.
Totally a feature. They're all features. There was another instance too. It was in the room with the milk cartons when you're in the refrigerator, and I don't remember what the specific difference was. I think he wound up in an area where there was just like massive amounts of the body bags that I never found. And I was just like,
it's a feature.
What happened here? So one of us triggered something.
Carnage
somewhere.
saying unintentional speedrun pro strat.
Yeah.
I think I have seen that.
I think it would have been a little more likely for me to do the unintentional speedrun, because Carnage plays in self-imposed hard mode. So I think that's a little more likely. But there were just little minor differences here and there, and they could have been glitches, they could have been hangovers. I don't know. But
I'll look again to see if I can catch them. That's interesting.
It's really neat if it really is catching like the erratic behavior and stuff, and triggering even just the tiniest little thing left in the code. Would be really neat if it was there.
That could be. I mean, after you've worked on a game for so long, it starts to take a mind of its own. So it may just be.
Nevermind deserves to have a mind of its own.
I don't know. That notion scares me.
It's the ghost of Winchester.
Maybe it's all happening in Winchester's mind.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, the end of the game. After all the expansions, the extra cases.
Out, he's just laying on the couch chewing.
Just a goat on a couch. Just zooms out. The whole game is in his mind. Holy
You're welcome.
It's a whole new meaning to Goat Simulator.
Oh god.
Oh god, yes.
What did Carnage say in the chat earlier about Goat Simulator, the psychological years?
Oh
my lord.
Amazing.
So Earlier we mentioned some of the things that could affect your game with the biofeedback. We talked about like the screen getting staticky and red. I know Wood has mentioned the milk area, the levels of milk rising and lowering depending on how stressed you are. What other examples are there of the game fucking with you when you're getting more stressed out?
So I'm trying to think of ones that aren't too spoilery, but so there's one of my my favorite's probably the milk. I just love the milk room, but one of my other favorites is in the intestinal car maze area. as you get more stressed, as the game thinks you're getting more stressed, the walls kind of spin a little bit around you, just enough to like make it unsettling, but not so much that it's like super obvious at first. And it becomes kind of more like the coloration gets kind of messed up. But my favorite part of it is the music becomes more intense, which gets me every single time, because it just becomes really like driving this drums, and it's in your ears, and you have the car horn going, and it just like, for me at least, it just immediately escalates my anxiety levels, and it's very effective. So that's one that I love and hate at the same time, I guess.
I feel like it's, for me, instead what I got was everything started to look like that maze got darker.
Yes.
Either darker, or it started going into like almost a negative.
Yep. Yeah, it like more red and black, and yeah.
And it actually became way more difficult to actually to get through. Well, I mean, minus the time I actually got out of bounds for a sec.
Oh yeah.
You hit that glitch.
Yep, I actually I saw the patch note after I finished streaming. It's like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. It's
That labyrinth made me glad that I played without biofeedback though, because I psyched myself up just enough in my head to be like, I know what this could be. Yep. I know what this could be like. I'm glad I don't have to deal with this. Let's go.
Yeah. It's intentionally meant to be just brutal, and frustrating. So I'm pleased that we were successful in that.
Oh, absolutely. The whole thing's been pretty fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's for, I guess the best word to describe it. Fun.
Yeah.
And a massive shout out to whoever did the sound design in this game, because playing this game with headphones on in a dark room may have been the biggest regret of my year so far.
We're so lucky because, again, this started in grad school for me. And when we were first working on our thesis projects, I think it was another student who had the idea of like, hey, we also have this like film composers school. Why don't we go talk and see if there's any like folks there who want to like collaborate in the games? Because like originally for thesis projects, you have to like make your own music or like find like free music from online. And it was always sort of a lackluster component of a lot of the projects. And so we're like, okay, let's team up with them. We all pitched our games. And this one individual reached out to me. His name is Derek Baird, and he was a student as well then. And he worked on the original student version of it, along with two other composers from that school as well, Jeff Tinsley and Dustin Painter. And they're all amazingly talented. And then when we went to go kind of make the non-student version of the game, I reached out to Darren. It's like, are you still available? I'd love to work with you again. And he was. And we're just so fortunate because he's just amazing. Like, he's super talented, super great guy to work with. He does a lot of documentary work when he's not making creepy Nevermind music, but just like, we just kind of tell him like, okay, this is the level. There's going to be like giant screaming faces. So make some music that works with giant screaming faces, and like, boom, just nails it. Exactly. And so like, I feel incredibly fortunate that I just had the good fortune and circumstances to meet him so early on in the project and be able to continue to work with him, because he's a friggin' genius. And if anyone's looking for composers, Derek Baird's your guy. A bit of a shout out to him. He's great.
I'll keep that in mind.
So, and like with horror experiences, it's really more about the audio than the visuals in many ways. I think I remember one time I was playtesting an early version of Nevermind, and we just got actually the new music for the car maze area. We had used some like temp music before, and then we just implemented the new legit stuff, and it like super scary. Like, I couldn't make it through. And it sounds dramatic, but like really, I was just like, oh my god, this is way too freaky for me.
What have I done?
Yeah, and it's like, I've played this thing like 1,000 times, so you wouldn't think, but it's just it's all about the music for games like this, for sure.
I feel like it's that, and also sound design as well. Like again, another fond, for lack of a better term. Fond memory playing through the real. I'm sorry, I'm not about the client numbers, right? Such as the first client,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Is as he progressed to like, because I had to reset that section because the glitch was no big deal, because I got to notice more. Which was when you go past the bathroom, it's like you just knock on it and it's just your mother, the client's mother, just yelling at her. But when he's getting further into Revelation, you actually hear her hysterically crying. It's, oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And if you knock on the door the first time before you turn out the light, she's kind of pleasant. And then if you do it the second time, it's the exact same lines, but she's angry at you.
Yeah, I did notice that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Our voice acting was all of our voice actors were phenomenal. Again, we're super lucky that we were able to collaborate with the folks and they're all professional voice actors and actresses. Actually, as a fun fact, for the client after that one, the guy who did the voice is actually our VR designer and producer because he's a professionally trained actor and part of SAG and everything. And we kept going through all these reels. We couldn't find quite the right voice. And so we used his as a temp while we were waiting to find the right person. And then we're like, wait a minute, this actually just works fine as is. Let's do this, record this legit. And and he actually did a lot of our voice acting wrangling as well. So
nice, very nice.
Yeah. So we were very lucky to have that.
So good. There's just so much good about this game.
Yeah, no,
and so much bad, but like in the good way.
Yeah, it's honestly, I can't recommend this
been one of my
more.
favorite horror games.
Thank you. I
play a ton of them. Joe's constantly throwing horror games at me. So.
Yeah, Cole is kind of like our horror person if it's on Xbox. So, and the fact that she's like, yeah, this is one of the scariest.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting because it's not like your traditional horror game in that, like, as I mentioned before, you're not like running at zombies with an axe and like blood spewing out of your head, and I love games like that, don't get me wrong, but it's very different from that. And so one interesting challenge we've had with Nevermind is that we actually used to just call it outright a horror game. And now we've kind of moved away from that because I think there's this expectation that when you call something a horror game that you're going to be like, shooting up monsters, and this is very different from that. And so we've actually run into a lot of issues where people expect that, and then when they're playing it, and they're like, "There's what?" It's totally different. And so and some people really like how it's very different, and some people really hate how it's different like that. And so it's been kind of an interesting challenge for us is communicating like this is not. It's if you're looking for Resident Evil, it's definitely not that. And we're glad that we made something that is I guess different in that way. But yeah, so it makes it always is very heartening to hear when people really enjoy that and enjoy the game because it's certainly not a game for everybody.
See, I think anybody could do a good action horror movie with jump scares and blood and gore. Anyone can do that. But when it comes to like a psychological horror game that it doesn't jump out and scare you, it gets inside you and makes your skin tingle.
Yeah.
That's the hard one to do. And that's the one that you guys nailed.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing as Joe. It's psychological horror in horror games, and like I said, I play a ton of them. It's horribly underrepresented, and so when I saw this was psychological horror, which is what I had found when I looked it up, because I hadn't heard of it until Joe offered it to me, and which is 90% of the games he hands me. But when I saw it was psychological horror, I was like, oh, give. There's not enough of those. Those are my favorite. I love horror in any regard and aspect. And psychological horror is my personal favorite as far as genre goes. And it's so few and far between. And the few that do try it, it's usually they end up falling back on the jump scares. And this legitimately played on my emotions. It made me stop and think about the clients, and it made me think of how they got where they were and why that was a legitimately scary experience, as opposed to just, hey, here's a doll jumping at you.
Right, right, yeah.
Boo!
Yeah, exactly.
Don't get me wrong, I like when you throw a doll at me too, but this is the stuff, like, I found myself going to bed after I had played the last client, and, my husband's like, pack it in, let's go to bed, you gotta turn it off, and I'm like, but I gotta do it again. I went to bed and I just laid there and I thought about that client's experience. And when a game can stay with you like that, that's special. That's not something a lot of them can do.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very high praise. I really appreciate that.
Your game ruined my life and everything that I hold sacred. Thank you.
Well, it's, yeah. but, it does bring up a good point that, I say that Nevermind's not a game for everyone in terms of taste and preference, but also, one thing that we've tried to be very sensitive to is that even though the stories aren't based on any, real people, they deal with situations that certainly all too many people have gone through. And so it's the kind of game that, we put up so many disclaimers that it's a little annoying, I think, but to some people, at least I've gotten that feedback, but it's important that I think anyone who may have sensitivities needs to be really careful when playing the game because it has that emotional punch to some, and we want this game to help people, and the last thing we want is it to have the opposite of that effect. And so it is something that we take very seriously.
Yeah, I know trigger warnings have become kind of like a meme these days where, oh my God, triggered. But this seems like a game that if you're not careful and you have serious underlying issues, this could really fuck someone up. And it's cool to see those warnings in there, not just as a, hey, this shit gets serious, but a, maybe you should think twice about playing this if you're having any kind of problems.
Exactly. Yeah. And we do actually want to make an edition of this game, kind of branch it a little bit. So we have like what we call like the commercial version, which is what's out there now. And we want to make a academic therapeutic version of the game that actually can be used in therapeutic or medical contexts. It's just something that we need to work. We've worked pretty closely with, advisors in the medical field and psychology to make sure we get the themes we deal with right, but we want to work with them even more closely so that we can develop an edition of the game that therapists can use to work with their actual clients and maybe hopefully help them in some way, shape, or form. But that's a little bit further on down the road.
Yeah. After the GOAT DLC.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Priorities.
The GOAT ending.
Those always come first.
Yeah.
The Winchester ending. Oh, man. Anyway, I know we've been chatting for over an hour now. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to ask or mention before we wrap this up? Don't everyone talk at once.
I just want to beg for more DLC. That's all. More clients, please.
No, we
feed my addiction.
we really, really want to build it out because we have like all these like awesome ideas that we're jazzed about. It's just a matter of getting the resources to make it happen. But we're optimistic that we'll find a way to do so. So fingers crossed, and hopefully they'll be coming soon.
It's awesome. I'm just excited to try to get this in VR like as soon as I can because I really want to get into this. Yeah,
see what you think of it in VR and some of the later levels as well. Because the intensity kind of escalates.
Yeah, it is something I hope I will be able to stream as well.
Cool.
Yeah. It's like I'm always afraid of like hey I do want people to like play this and like understand it and like get into it. And not just like, oh, the game looks pretty good, because like, no, you have to be there. You have to experience this.
Yep.
So it's something I have to like really juggle, really.
Yeah, no, that's understandable, and I appreciate you taking that so seriously. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
Compliment.
So, Erin, anything else you wanted to talk about or mention?
No, you guys had great questions and this has been a ton of fun for me just to kind of geek out about various things. I can't imagine anything that you just have to know that you've missed. No
Pulse is asking what state is Wood in. I'm going to go with insanity.
Oh, what state am I in?
Yeah. State called Germany.
Yeah. It's one of those specific. I'm in the Rhineland of House. I probably butchered that name, but yeah.
Probably.
I'm west of Bavaria, so yeah.
That's cool.
I like insanity better. You were in the state of insanity.
Yeah, that's better, yeah.
My state is lazy.
I just came back last week from Switzerland. I was out there for the Ladicious Festival, which was awesome.
Ooh.
Like it
What's
was like
that?
a lot of. It's sort of like an independent game festival, a little bit like IndieCade, like we have out here, where it's a bunch of independent games that were mostly developed. They had some from the U.S., but a lot from Europe and especially Switzerland, and it was super cool. There is some really cool game development happening in that part of the world. So I went out there to give a talk about Nevermind, but mostly just to geek out over some really cool games.
Oh gosh,
So
you're
highly
making me want to
recommend
go.
it.
You make me want to go to more Indie Fest because I got a chance to go to the one in Japan.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, that's actually the reason I picked up another game through Steam. It's called Back in 1999.
The back
So
of
it's
1999?
Back to 99. It was basically the guy just wanted, like he said, hey, you remember like Silent Hill 1? Yeah, I want that game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's exactly what yeah, so it's, but like I love going to those things because I love seeing the indie scene through the lens of a different culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's so good to be able to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's very refreshing and just, yeah, you learn a lot about the culture and yeah, it's cool. And I'd imagine, especially with the one in Japan, that's
Yeah,
it's also, yeah.
They were showing off like Goat Simulator. That was really funny.
I need
Everyone
to get
gotta
to more
get
than
it.
just MagFest. I really do.
Dude, go man. If you can get to another Indie Fest, you can do it. Like those are probably the most fun.
Yeah, IndieCade is awesome. If you guys have a chance to, guys and gals have a chance to go to IndieCade, I highly recommend it. That's it's like a little piece of Disneyland all around independent games. If that makes any sense, it's pretty cool.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Maybe one day I'll be able to make it. There's so much stuff I want to go to.
Yeah.
Apparently I missed the one in Paris. Oh, that sucks.
Aw.
Yeah, well,
We
we
don't
back
get
in November.
like that
So
redneck land.
Hold your own, Cole.
Right?
Invite all the devs. You could get Flying Mollusk out there. I mean,
Sure.
they have to go shoot some video of Winchester anyway.
That's true. I know. It's for research.
Study.
Yeah. I love it. I am so on board with that.
Serve like farm fresh eggs for breakfast and
Farm fresh lavender eggs. Yeah.
Make them special.
oh man. On that note, Erin, it was fantastic having you on.
Likewise.
The game is amazing. I can't wait for more to come out or for whatever Flying Mollusk is doing next. Please come back and join us again sometime. You've been a pleasure to chat with.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, this has been a ton of fun for me. So thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been awesome hanging out with all of you. And yeah, just let me know. I'd love to come back anytime. So
sounds good. Do you have any final words to end this segment of the show?
Oh gosh.
Make them good.
Oh my goodness. I would say go out and support your independent game developers. If you want to see more crazy experimental games like Nevermind, then go out and support those games because that's the only way more of them will get made.
welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that interview. It is time to get on with some of the normal duties of the show this week. And joining me, as usual, CJ, how you doing?
Really fantastic.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm finally
No editing.
done with Evolve.
No editing.
Forever.
You're done with what?
Evolve forever.
Finally. And I didn't get my copy in yet.
Jeez, they're taking a little time.
It's coming from the UK. What do you expect?
I don't know.
That shit doesn't
I'm just
happen
happy
overnight.
to finally be done forever. Like, I never had to play that game again. I've already uninstalled it.
Good
I'm
times.
done with it.
Well, now you can focus on the 300 games you have to review.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot lately.
You have. Hey, it's looking like it might just be us from now on. So, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway, bunch of news happening this week. We might as well just dive right into it. The big news, of course, is the PlayStation Plus lineup for February has been announced. Pretty decent lineup. I think it is probably better than the games with gold.
It definitely is. I've seen just 2 of the games make up way better than games with gold.
Yeah. We'll start off with PlayStation 3 is getting Anna Extended Edition, which, whatever. And then Starwall, which I love, which is also cross-buy with PS4, so PlayStation 4 owners will get that. The PlayStation Vita is getting Ninja Senki DX, which I don't know what the fuck it is. I didn't bother to look it up, so you're welcome, everyone. But it's also cross-buy with PS4, so there's another one for PlayStation 4 owners. They're also getting Torque L, or Torquel, however they want to say it, which looks like a crazy, weird platformer where, like, you grow depending on what button you're pressing, and it like pushes you in direct. It looks crazy as hell, but once
just
again,
like real life.
Cross-buy with PS4. So yes, that is 3 of 4 games that aren't the PS4 games are also PS4 games. Which
a lot of PS4 games for PlayStation 4 owners this month.
And then the PS4 games themselves are pretty goddamn good, including Little Big Planet 3.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a pretty big one. Nice AAA title there. And then another one of my favorite indies we've ever covered on this show, Not a Hero from Roll7.
Yup, that's the game that makes me really jealous. Like we got a cool indie game, Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time, but if you could just switch that out for Not a Hero, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I think PlayStation is the easy winner this month.
Yep, this month it's pretty clear.
Yeah. I mean, both are pretty good, but damn.
PlayStation got the upper hand this month. I'll give it to them.
Yeah. So, not the only bit of PlayStation news, though, as they have also announced that after a holiday season in which PlayStation VR units were fairly tough to find, they are going to be launching some bundles back into the wild. The first one is basically the same as the launch bundle, where it has the headset, the camera, 2 Move controllers, the PlayStation VR demo disc, and the PlayStation VR Worlds game for $4.99. So same price. It just doesn't say launch anymore. Same bundle though.
All right.
And those should be available in stores once again, probably by the time you hear this. Crazy enough, Canadian price is $6.99.
Wow.
How shitty is the Canadian dollar getting?
I have no idea, dude. It seems like they're worth like what, 10 cents now?
Something like that. GameStop is actually getting a separate special bundle, which,
of course they are.
I don't know. It basically just swaps out PlayStation VR Worlds with Until Dawn: Rush of Blood, which I think is a better game, but you're basically swapping in a $20 title and removing a $40 title, but the bundle is the same price.
Well, then, yeah, I mean, I guess the one that's worth it more is the other one.
I would just buy the other bundle and buy Until Dawn separately.
Yeah.
Makes more sense that way.
That's a better choice.
Some more PlayStation news. Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age has gotten a release date of July 11th in the US. So July is going to be a great month for me.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for that one. But it is obviously not all PlayStation news, as Nintendo came out and announced that the official end of Wii U production, surprising nobody at all.
Yeah, I thought it already happened, and then I saw the news and I was like, oh, it didn't happen yet. Okay,
yeah.
Well, now.
EA had an investors conference call, and this will be bad news for Chris. They confirmed that Skate 4 is not in development. So,
all right.
If you've been excited at the recent teasing, there's nothing in development yet. So maybe it was just like a tease that wasn't supposed to happen, so they're trying to clean it up. Or maybe it's still just in planning stages. They just haven't started the actual work on it yet.
Yeah, that's quite possible.
Elder Scrolls Online is getting a new expansion as the game is returning to Morrowind. This looks to be like a full-on, full $40 expansion. There's going to be a variety of different purchase options, including a brand new collector's edition, which includes all the other stuff, a big-ass statue, and all those fun goodies, a steelbook for steelbook whores like me. And that should be hitting later on this year. Supposedly the Morrowind area in the game is going to be the same size as the original Morrowind game.
Jeez.
So that'll be massive if true.
That is a lot of room.
Yeah.
To move around in.
And speaking of huge games, Conan Exiles is now officially out in early access on Steam with an Xbox game preview release set for later this year from Funcom. And the character creation has been getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, I heard about this.
The game features dick sliders.
That's funny.
The game starts with your character hanging on a cross, fully naked. And you get to choose your gender. And of course, full frontal nudity. They have a breast size adjustment for men and women because, men have breasts. They are non-functional, but we have breasts, and you can arrange, you could size them from mini A cups to probably D. It's nothing ridiculously huge, but
you can't be your whole character's just a pair of boobs.
No, it seems naturally large.
Yeah. All right.
And then if you're a man, you can adjust your dick size. From frigid pool to arm.
To mandingo.
And even better, as you hang on the cross, your dick is just blowing in the breeze like a flag in the wind.
That is hilarious.
It is ridiculous. There's dick physics for jumping and flopping.
This sounds really weird.
It's pretty magical. So Kotaku had some videos on that. So just, if you're not at work, go look that up. And then when your significant other walks in asking why you're looking at video game dicks, I don't know, come out of the closet, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, dick sliders. I can't wait for this to hit game preview. Gonna play with the dicks. Final bit of news I have is Xbox Backward Compatibility editions for the week. Surprisingly, nothing on Thursday. Nothing today.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked about that.
Wasn't a very populated week.
Yeah, but Tuesday had 3 games. They had Mad Tracks, which is one of the older racing games. I think this is back when games still had a 50 meg limit. Can you imagine a game only being 50 meg these days?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, the early days of Xbox Live, download games had a 50 meg size limit.
Wow.
And one of the first ones to break that was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And it was bumped to 256, and then it was up to a gig, and then 2 gig, and now they just don't give a fuck.
Oh yeah, because it's stupid to limit that stuff. Yeah. People can get a hard drive replacement or whatever.
Yeah.
Does 360 support external? I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think up to 2 terabytes, something like that.
Well, that's not bad. 2 terabytes is quite a bit of room for 360
yeah.
games, considering the average is probably around 5 gigs.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
a
there's
full game.
clearly big ones like Lost Odyssey, but
And yeah, GTA 5, if you actually bought that digitally, that takes up fucking 20-some gigs.
yeah. The other games added were Juju, which is a platformer. And
Really
then-
mad I didn't buy that on sale a couple weeks ago. Now that it's,
See, if I
now
see
that it's
something on dirt cheap sale, I'm just like, fuck it might show up. And then
I was gonna do that, but it was like I had a choice to make, and I waited.
that'll teach you, you son of a bitch. Then last game added was Stuntman Ignition.
Cool. That's an
Which,
older one as well.
Fun game. Enjoyable game. So yeah, that's all the news I got. Anything on your end?
Yes, something really big for me.
What's up?
You know that game Dead by Daylight?
Yes.
Confirmed to be releasing in 2017 for consoles.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a
So
lot of good about that.
I'm really excited for that. I love watching people play Dead by Daylight, and I wanted to pick it up when it released on Steam, but I didn't have the money at the time. I did play the beta. It was fun. Very shitty or weird controls for controller, so I'm wondering if they're going to keep the same control scheme or if they're going to change it up a bit.
And that's what, like a 4-on-1, kind of like Evolve and Friday the 13th.
Yeah, well, I think Friday the 13th is actually more than 4.
No, just is similar in style.
Yes, this game is actually very, pretty similar to Friday the 13th.
Cool.
I'd say
Yeah,
it's
it
a
should be pretty
lot
exciting.
smaller map and less places to hide. But it's a fun game.
Cool. Yeah,
So I'm
I
really
will. I
excited.
will look forward to that when that comes along. But we have a shit ton of reviews to get to this week.
Yeah, we do. Well,
Like a ton. So I say let's kick things off. Are you ready for this?
yes.
Well, Chris, we didn't introduce you yet, so I mean you're ruining the whole illusion of no editing on our show.
You monster.
I know. Chris Taylor's here to do 2 reviews for us to kick things off. Chris,
Hello.
how you doing, Chris?
I'm doing just fine. I'm over here petting a cat, chatting on Skype.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, we are totally doing the show completely in order. There is no editing whatsoever.
Yes.
So, with
Definitely
that
not the most
said,
edited episode of all time.
First game to talk about this week is called Quest of Dungeons, developed and published by Upfall Studios, released January 17th on the PS4 for $8.99, previously available on Xbox One, Wii U, and 3DS. Quest of Dungeons is a turn-based dungeon crawler game, a roguelike featuring a good 16-bit retro artistic look. An evil Dark Lord has stolen all the light, so your mission is to enter his lair and defeat him. Chris, you covered the PS4 version of this game after we covered the Xbox release, God, a year and a half ago, something like that. So, what are your thoughts on the game?
I love it. It's a great game. Okay, so I guess there's kind of a theme between the 2 games I'm reviewing is that it's basically new games that are acting retro, which is kind of the style of today, I guess.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, so using what I know about roguelikes, because I've played many of them from many different eras. This one definitely holds up with the best of them, and I really kind of like actually how it has an old look to it, but also a modern feel. The animation of it, of course, is super smooth. The soundtrack is definitely above what you would hear in an 8-bit or 16-bit sort of game. So in that sense, I really enjoy that aspect of it. I like that it is funny.
Oh God, just some of the humor at the beginning, and it's just so goofy.
It actually has a record scratch halt. that gag exists in this game. So that's all I have to tell you about that, really.
You're wondering if you're wondering how I got here, kind of moment.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's me, just a rogue in a dungeon.
For the people not familiar with the gameplay, give us a quick rundown of how the game plays.
Okay, so like as everybody has mentioned, it's a roguelike, so it's randomly generated everything. You choose one of 3 dungeons. Of course, I suppose you have to beat the first one in order to get the next one.
Hope so.
Yeah, exactly. You choose from your 4 characters, which are 4 distinct classes with different strengths and weaknesses, and you're sent into the dungeon where you walk around and run into enemies if you're a fighter, or like kind of ease style, or shoot them if you're an archer, or use magic on them if you're the magic user, etc. And as you progress through the dungeon, you gather up all those golds and items, and basically try to survive. You only have 1 life to get to clear the whole thing. So if you die, you get to start all the way over again at the very beginning.
Like a loser.
Like a loser.
Big smelly loser.
So I have raved about this game since we first covered it on the show. It is up there as one of my favorite indies we've covered on this show out of the tens we've covered.
Almost a dozen.
We've covered at least 13 or 14 games on this show over the past year and a half, and Quested Dungeons is still near the top of my list. So what do you think of the game?
I'm actually with you on that one. I liked this PS4 game so much that I went ahead and bought it on the 3DS with my own monies. And
Nice.
And that got me the Wii U version as well. So now I have 3 copies of the game.
Nice.
And you didn't get an Xbox One.
Well, it's maybe. We'll see after the Switch comes out.
So
I got to get Switch.
So given that you technically already bought it, do we need to give this a buy it rating?
I mean, here's the thing. Roguelikes have their own fan base. It's like, if you like running and jumping and hitting things with sticks, this isn't the game for you. This is if you play it on easy mode, it's probably, to the best of besides one of my favorite roguelikes, which is Izuna Legend of the Unemployed Ninja on the original DS, which is now prohibitively expensive. I would say that that's my favorite one to consider if you're just getting into roguelikes, but now this game is definitely it. The easy mode on it is like a perfect introduction into what is a really difficult niche like genre that's ultimately really rewarding as far as gameplay goes. So I would say that this is a must own if you are planning on getting into roguelikes. And then having said that, the normal difficulty is right up there with just about anything. Like it has that thrill that, you've been progressing through the dungeon, but you just know that if you open that door, there could be a boss behind it that'll frag you in one hit.
Yeah, you can get your shit stomped in this game pretty easily. I have yet to complete the game with the Necro Dancer. It is the only achievement I don't have in the game because, the later bosses just destroy me.
Oh yeah. It has that element, and that's any good roguelike is going to instill the fear of God into you.
Yeah.
So it retains that aspect of roguelikes, but I really, really do enjoy how they introduced what I would consider possibly the best casual mode that I've ever seen in a game that plays like this. So
yeah. Plus, if you use the archer is easy mode on easy mode.
Yeah, I did die with the knight, and then I played as the magic user and died, and then I played as the archer and got like 10 levels in, like on the first night. This is one of those kind of games, like I would definitely say like the original Diablo or Baldur's Gate or something, where just based on the way they pace like your treasures and your equipment upgrades and everything like that, like just that alone will suck you into like where you're playing until 6 a.m. and you're like, I got the best bow. There's an even better bow. I could do this for 2 more hours. I could quit my job. So this definitely has my buy it recommendation and any other recommendations I can give it. again, unless you're more into the straight up skill based action game, because if you don't like the random elements of roguelikes, this game will probably end up being better than most, but will ultimately be like, oh, I can't believe I died and have to start over again. I hate this.
And then you'll be addicted and keep playing. So yeah, exactly. I absolutely adore this game to death, and the more platforms it comes on and the more people that get to play it, I think the better.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like with nods to the music, I really love the score of the game. It's not authentically 8-bit, but I kind of like that. Well, it's kind of a plus minus that the music is randomly shuffled between certain tracks. And in fact, you can hear probably the entire soundtrack on one level if you interrupt it enough.
Yeah.
Just one constant, to the shop. Of course. Yeah, the one constant is the store music, which is just this lovely little jaunty saxophone song that is actually probably my favorite one out of the whole game. Yeah, and even though I reviewed the PS4 version, I did want to interject a little bit that the 3DS version has that as the icon music.
Sweet.
When you're choosing the game, it starts playing that saxophone riff.
Oh God!
And I was really amused by that. So, but comparing it to the 3DS version, I will say the PS4 version has a much better, just possibly by virtue of being on a larger screen, it has a much more intuitive and fun to use menu system. The 3DS is a little more archaic because they have to split it up into different screens.
Yeah.
So having said, just purely based on gameplay, I would say get the PS4 version or the Wii U version, which I actually haven't downloaded yet.
Or the Xbox One version.
The Xbox One version,
Don't leave that one out, you bitch.
I haven't played it. I can't help it. Bought the game 3 times. Is that not enough? So yeah, get one of the big screen versions, I suppose, with the better menu, or else, the 3DS version is just great because it's portable. So
sounds good. All right, let's move on. Alwa's Awakening. This is the other game that you're covering. Developed and published by Elden Pixels. Released February 2nd on Steam for $9.99. Use your magic staff and progress through a large interconnected world where you'll solve puzzles, fight enemies, and defeat bosses in order to help free the land of Alwa. Explore and uncover the secrets by using your platforming skills in this challenging and charming 8-bit adventure game. And I believe when I first saw this game, I think I contacted you and said I found the game perfect for you, and I would be shocked if you didn't already own it on the NES.
Yeah, exactly. And that's entirely accurate. Okay, so Alwa's Awakening. So while we're on the topic of retro games that kind of blend retro feel and modern feel, Alwa's Awakening is more of what I would consider pure retro. So as I played it, I was just like getting all these nods of like different games, all the way down to like the animation style, the backgrounds, the music style. I was getting like some Taito in there, like some of it reminded me of Little Samson, like just the overly animated way the character jumps, and there's a little bit of your kind of older school like Dragon Slayer, Legend of or Legacy of the Wizard type of things. But ultimately, yes, what Alwa's Awakening is a really, really solid 2D Metroidvania style game. So you play as Zoe, which, by the way, is the name of my oldest niece. So that's kind of a cool little thing for me. Yeah.
Nice.
She's the mysterious protagonist from another world. I say mysterious because they don't actually explain in the beginning of the game why she's there or why she's the chosen one. But the cool thing is that the entire game, a little bit like, for whatever weird reason that Sega CD game is coming up. What is that one? The one where you play the girl and there's a dungeon and a town and stuff.
Shit, I don't know. Popful Mail?
Popful Mail, yeah.
How the fuck did I guess that?
No, that's perfect. So it's one of those things where it's like the action is sort of blended with going to town, like to a town and things like that. I guess a little bit like Popple Mail or Faxanadu, or I suppose Shovel Knight even. But it's not broken up into stages like Shovel Knight is. Well, no, it is. It's kind of interconnected dungeons.
Make up your mind, Chris.
I know. Well, I'm like figuring out the best way to compare it. But that's the thing, is that it's not directly comparable to any one game. It's just kind of got this just old feel with a new adventure. But yeah, you center it around this town, and you get to know the story a little bit better as you talk to the people, and then go on your quest to defeat these 4 assholes that are in the hoods and are the minions of the big bad guy. Which the opening cinematic to me looked a lot like a Game Boy Color game. It's like it was 8-bit, but like super fancy 8-bit. Like some of the like Crystallis remake on the Game Boy Color.
Nice.
I don't know. The cool thing about this game is that it, unlike the humorous sort of wink and a nod Quest of Dungeons, Alwa's Awakening actually takes itself pretty seriously, and thus kind of draws you into the adventure. And I kind of like that. It makes the thing more intriguing. And also, it's nice to see a retro game that has come out recently and is not like kind of a joke.
It's not a parody of itself.
Exactly. It's not really a parody. It's just a new thing that looks and sounds old. The 8-bit or the soundtrack is definitely like an 8-bit throwback. It all does sound like it was recorded in Famitracker and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I was really impressed by that actually, because the tunes are very, very good. Like they're not like an ambitious Tim Follin style thing, but they're solid. Or, I guess like Vert, with the whole Shovel Knight thing.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the style nowadays as far as like 8-bit soundtracks go. It's just like, let's make them as fancy as possible, but this game sticks to its roots.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's kind of what I like about it. It's, like I said, a side scroller, 2D, jumping, hitting things with sticks, and as you progress through the levels, you get spells, which will, as Metroidvanias go, will help you get through the parts of the dungeon you weren't able to get to before. So it's got that constant exploration. It has a map you can pull up, which is always handy. And yeah, like I said, it keeps you kind of drawn in, and you kind of want to see what happens next.
So overall, what are your thoughts?
This one for sure is a purchase. I would say buy this one.
It's only $10 on Steam, so...
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's the only game that Elven Pixels has so far. Is this their first game?
I believe so.
Yeah,
it's their only one on Steam, so I guess it's possible they have something, on mobile. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. I can't do research on everything. I did just add it to my wish list, though. So if anyone's listening, the game is officially on my Steam wish list. Buy me all the presents.
Yeah.
You have it on Xbox already, don't you?
No, this game's not on Xbox.
Wait, what?
I wish it was.
Ara's Awakening?
Alwa.
Always.
Oh my god, it sounds so similar to Ara. I thought you were talking about that game the entire time.
No.
Ara's Awakening, that's not... Okay, it's not the same game. Interesting. It sounds so similar.
Anyway, yeah, Link's Awakening is a definite purchase, I would say. If you're into retro action Metroidvania style games, which I actually have friends that periodically go on like Facebook or whatever, and they're like, give me recommendations for exactly this kind of game. So this is definitely one that's meeting like current demands. And there's a real obvious lot of care that went into this one. So,
oh shit. Alwa's Awakening, the game designer is Mikhail Forsland, who works at Zoink Games, who did like Zombie Vikings and stuff like that. That's cool as shit. I didn't know that. Well, it makes sense why this is such a good game.
Well, excellent.
He doesn't know what that means.
Yeah, I haven't played Zombie Viking. I'm sorry.
But have you played it? Stick It to the Man.
This is the second game I've ever gotten on Steam, so I don't know.
I'll Stick It to the Man is on consoles as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a great game.
You punk.
I think it's even on like Wii U or something, isn't it?
Possibly. And then they're also working on Fee or Faye or whatever it is.
Yeah,
F-E.
the one that Ubisoft showed at their press conference, or was it EA? One of those two.
What are you gonna do? So yeah, this is now even more on my radar now that I know who's involved with this game.
Yeah, there does seem to it was weird that it seemed to be the only game by this company, because I'm like, there's clearly some experience that's gone into this.
Well, it's always possible that a company came together from previous programmers as well.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, this basically looks like a side project for the most part.
Right on.
So, Chris, any final words to sum up the 2 games you covered?
These are 2 of the better games I've ever gotten to review.
You're welcome.
I mean, yeah.
Chris, you say that about every game.
Well, they just keep getting better and better. I mean, although I guess one of these 2 games could have used an octocopter.
True.
But who knows? And then I see that there's some Chemco games on the horizon, so maybe I'll be back on the show soon.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Chris, it was a pleasure. Have yourself a good night, and thanks as always for doing this.
All right, thank you very much. Bye.
All right, next game to talk about is called The Sun and Moon, developed by Daniel Linson, published by Digerati Distribution. This one released January 27th on the Xbox One for $6.99. The Sun and the Moon, the winner of Ludum Dare 29, is a platformer with a unique mechanic. You can dive into the ground. Momentum is conserved, but gravity is reversed, letting you fling yourself high into the air or deep beneath the surface. This one feels very similar to stuff like 6180 The Moon, or just platformers where you just, very, very basic visuals, and it's just like collect a couple of things and then hit the exit. Except it's fucking difficult, brutally difficult. This game is not fucking around with its difficulty.
It doesn't look like it is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes it more difficult than it should be is the things that you have to collect, and the ball that you control are so tiny that there's a lot of times you'll think that you collected the item, but you'll fly past it and realize, no, you didn't. You missed it. You just went directly next to it. I kind of wish there was a bigger, buffer or grace area that counts as you collecting the items. Gameplay is basically, simple platforming to different areas, collect the objects, and hit the finish. The big twist is that some of the platforms are black, where you can hold the one button down and go into them with a reverse gravity. So if you go into it, you'll start heading up instead of down. If you just hold the button, you won't drop down into it, because the gravity's basically already forcing you out the way it is. But if you jump and hold the button, you'll drop down into it, kind of like diving into water and then floating back up. Except the momentum with that gravity could shoot you up really high, depending on, how high you jumped in from. Or if you walk into it from the side, you'll just kind of go in and start floating up. There's a ton of stages in the game. Each stage has 3 stars that you could collect based on how fast you get through the game. They're not stars. It's like a sun and a moon icon, or like a full moon. So, the sun and moon. But,
yeah.
Jesus, some of those goals, I don't grasp how some of those goals are supposed to be achieved, because there's times I feel like I had a perfect run through the level, and I'm like a second away from the best time. Wow. Not even like a 10th of a second, or like 8/100ths, like a full fucking second. And I don't get it. there's something I'm missing to it, but holy God, is it difficult. The price of $6.99 is I think a great price for the game, because there's a lot of content to the game, but I think it's going to be one of those games where people are going to start up expecting something, and then it's going to just kick their ass, and there's a good chance that they might just get, 10, 20 stages into it and be like, you know what, fuck it, this is only $7, I've played enough. Maybe if I get better at gaming sometime in my life, I'll come back to it. I think there's going to be those masochist gamers out there who love playing the really hard stuff, like Jump Jet Rex fans or Electronic Superjoy, Super Meat Boy. They are going to be drawn to this, and it is going to be their goal to conquer it. So if Jake is listening, I think he's going to really enjoy this game. And I would love to see what he could do with this. And only $6.99, I think this is definitely one that earns a try it. I think it's too difficult to give it a buy it, but it's still a really solid game.
That's cool. My cat just knocked over my Christmas tree that's not put away yet.
Why the fuck is your Christmas tree still out?
Because it's a tiny one and I just haven't felt like doing it.
You know it's February, right?
Shh.
God damn it. All right, next game to talk about is called Criminal Girls Invite Only, developed by Nippon Ichi Software, published by NIS America. It released January 11th on Steam for $19.99. You've been entrusted with the care of a crew of girls whose sins have damned their souls to hell and an eternity of punishment. Their only hope of salvation is for you to recognize their unique histories and to guide them along the path to redemption. We got our good friend Henry Jones on this one. Henry, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
I feel like I'm about to be a lot better when I hear your review of this game.
Well, yeah, it's certainly one with a history to it. It was originally a PSP game, and, NIS America, I don't know if they originally released it for the PSP or they decided, nope.
I thought it was on Vita.
It is on Vita, but it is a remake of a PSP game.
Ah.
Because this thing has been around for years, and the controversy has been around for years. And once we get into, talking about how the game itself works, I think you can see why. So, you play this guy who is in a coma, and as your femdom boss, Mew, tells you, you're in hell. I mean, you're not a permanent resident in hell, but if you want to wake up and not be in hell forever, you have to take these 7 girls who are, they're, in hell, but they're not condemned to be there.
Okay.
They died sinners, but they were too young to determine whether they can permanently go to hell. So there are 7 of them, and they represent the 7 deadly sins. Like, Kisaragi is the thief of the group, so and Ron represents wrath, and for some reason she's your defensive tank. I don't quite know how that works. It's and then we have Tomoe, who I thought was lust because she had gigantic boobs, but apparently that represents gluttony.
Okay. It's all fat.
Something like that. And
fat titties.
Yes, they are. Her prison gown is bursting. So you are tasked with guiding them out of hell, and hell just happens to be a dungeon crawler, and each level representing the 4 elements. And how you get them to behave is I don't even want to talk about this because it is we had to delay this a week because I was on vacation and I had to go to my in-laws, and my in-laws are one of them is retired and one of them's getting there, so they're up at all hours of could be up at all hours of the night wandering around. They don't have a set schedule, so I don't want them walking in and seeing me play with the laptop open playing this, because the leveling up system, it is a basic dungeon crawling RPG at its heart. And the only difference is the leveling up mechanic has been replaced by disciplining the girls. Now, you discipline them, and it starts off by spanking them and works up from there. And you don't just spank them. You make them get into cosplay.
Oh, Jesus.
And then you play a mini game where, you have to whap out their temptation, which is first you get a writing crop, and there's a portrait of the girl in their cosplay, and the first one is gym clothes, and then it moves up to the second one, which is they're dressed up as animals, and then so on and so forth. But it's you can't represent them actually spanking the girls, so they're the temptation. So they're like these Dr. Mario viruses that pop up, and you have to click on them and constantly click on them until they disappear, and then you get experience points, and you get attacks. You have to do this to eventually get them to actually attack creatures, because there are creatures called convicts which get in their way. These are actual creatures that are bound to hell and are trying to keep you there. So as you level up,
I just love hearing the discomfort in your voice as you're explaining this.
Well, the trick to this is they specifically explain these are girls who are too young to be banished to hell. So you're disciplining underage girls. And the pictures that they are in are cheesecake, which is, anime speak for it's obviously supposed to be sexual, but they can't make it completely sexual. So it's like they're in discomfort, but one of them is holding, the area around their genitals. Oh, God damn. And it's usually the ones who look the youngest, too. But this is where this game will probably make not everybody happy, because this game has been censored. Believe it or not, this game has been censored.
I was gonna bring that up, because apparently they're the same censorship changes that were made in the Vita version, where there's more pink smoke in the motivation mini games. They're not punishment. They're motivation.
It's motivation.
What are some of the other changes?
Some of the changes is the audio has changed, because now they are completely silent when you motivate them. Because it used to be during punishment, you would hear their moans, and it'd be like, this wouldn't be the sound you would make here during punishment. It'd just be like, ah. It's like, yeah, clearly they are being disciplined right now.
Never thought I would hear that noise come from you, Henry.
No, apparently I am good at that. I don't know. I don't want to know, I suppose, but oh god. Wait.
So good.
Yes. So that's edited, and I work for an anime blog called Infinite Rainy Day, infiniterainy.blogspot.com for the cheap plug. So I've done seasonals, and I am kind of used to this. But what I'm also used to is with anything involving censorship in this kind of anime, people generally stay away in droves. So this is not going to make, if you're a normal RPG fan and your skin crawls easily, you're not going to like this. If you're, an anime fan who has the body pillows and has no shame, you're not going to like this because they censored it. it. And normally these fans don't like, if you censor anything, it's like, I'm done. I'm not buying it. Like, these people, like, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles X, when, you know, they had some shame and they gave the 12-year-old character, you know, decent bathing suits for optional costumes. They're like, no, censorship. Get this the fuck out of my face. I can't imagine their reaction when it's something that's actually supposed to be sleazy.
Yeah, it's although for those who are worried, there's apparently people working on mods to make the Steam version uncensored.
Yeah.
So good news for all of you.
The Vita game is probably never going to be uncensored, and also the Vita game costs $10 more if I'm looking at the prices right. Because I was doing some basic research, and the Vita version was $29.99, the Steam version was $19.99.
Yeah.
But it's not really the sleaze that breaks this game. I mean, it's the problem with most of these games that are sold on, you know, kinks or really weird Japanese shit, is that they are usually exceptionally dull games at their core. This is a basic PSP dungeon crawler. Beyond the updated art, the regular graphics are just shit. They're extremely pixelated, and they're unimaginative. They have some like neat atmospheric effects, like when you're in the spire, they call it, that represents fire. There's like flakes of, you know, fire floating around and stuff like that. Some of that's nice, but other than that, it is an old game and it looks like an old game.
I mean, you're basically playing a PSP game here. So
you're playing a PSP game and a very basic bitch one. The only thing that differentiates it is how you level up and how the combat is. And the combat is very luck-oriented, and you can stack it by leveling up your characters through motivation. So when it starts out, your characters can't even attack. You have to spank them until they actually can defend themselves. And then you get more moves, and you get stat boosts. Like, you can increase their defense, or you can get a move where you defend, but if somebody attacks that character, they get revenge, and they strike for double damage or whatever it is. And so you keep building these things. You get fire attacks. It's built so for every level, you have to work to get the elemental spells and attacks that actually damage things. Though it starts out, the area is everybody's weak to fire, and then you go to the fire level, and then you use your fire spells. They still work. They just don't work as well. So it's weird attacking being a pure fire with a fire spell, and it's like, oh, that actually hurt them. Well, the problem is you get stacked up with so many attacks, and you don't get to determine what attacks you get to use. You get 4 characters at a time, and they each get to have their own input over which attack they get to make, and you get to choose one. So if you need to heal for a turn, you'd better hope the healer's saying, hey, I can heal you guys, because otherwise you're going to have to miss a turn and hope your people survive. Because the list of 4, it can be anything. It could be the thief wants to steal something, defend. There can be attack with 1 girl, attack with 2 girls, or attack with all of them. It all depends on luck, and it can get extremely frustrating when you just want the game to do what you want it to do. Sorry, ran out of breath there. And the attack screens are very basic. There is not a whole lot of animation in it. It's a lot of still picture, and then there's, little effects that show up over them, and boom, you damaged it, and it says how much you damaged it for. And it feels like, not far removed from Dragon Warrior for the NES. And let's see here. Anything else about the battle system? It's just
basically
very
it feels like an old school RPG instead of anything, like nothing newer, nothing flashy. It's old school through and through.
Yeah, and it's very slow too. You wouldn't think the battle would take so long, but it takes a long time for the effects to go like and you did this damage. You did this damage on this character. You did this damage on this character. Now this character attacks. This is how much this damage did to your person. And there are some things like you have. It keeps you active at least. It's kind of grindy in that once you get to a new stage, you have to make sure you level them up at least a level or two and get a few extra talents before you start actually wandering around. But it actually is balanced out to where you need all 7 girls and you can change them out, but you can only change out 1 girl per turn. And they have items, but the items, the gold to buy them is connected to the skill points you need to motivate the girls. So you can either motivate the girls or you can buy items. Well, you're mostly going to use it to motivate the girls because you have to if you want to get the skills to survive. So you're not going to buy a whole lot of items, so that keeps your inventory, you get plenty of items, but it never feels like enough, and you never get enough revives if your character dies in battle. So it keeps it interesting. It keeps you cycling out the girls to make sure you're using you're not getting everybody killed.
Yeah.
And you're not getting, and it doesn't I can't remember what the magic points are called, but the potions that revive your skill points are very rare as well. So you can't just like, oh, I'm just going to heal you, and then restore all of my magic points, and then everything's all good.
Yeah.
Although that does lead to points where you just hang around the infirmary, which is the little portal spot where you can heal up and motivate the girls and just farm for about 20 minutes and then move on with your life.
So basically it's just slow, methodical, grindy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an old school RPG. I think if people are looking for an older schoolish experience, this sounds like something that still might be enjoyable.
Yeah. As my experience with watching a lot of shitty offensive anime, there's always somebody who's going to like this.
Yeah, well, I know the Steam reviews right now are sitting at mostly positive, and a lot of the negative stuff that I'm reading mainly pertains to like the censorship in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to me like if this kind of RPG is what you're looking for, it'll scratch that itch.
Yeah, I suppose. It's not
nothing remarkable, but
no, it is very mediocre, hidden, in a very specific kink that leans towards corporal punishment.
So overall, what is your rating for this game?
Okay, what's the lowest one again?
We have buy it, try it, and deny it.
I deny it. I would say kill it with fire, but I just know there's somebody going to be like, you're too prudish, and we talk, off screen about this. Off screen, we're talking through, phone lines, but
yeah.
But, you and I, we both played and enjoyed the Artanelico games. I mean, they had some very bad design issues where you didn't know where the hell you're going, and they were very fucked up games from a psychosexual standpoint, but they were very enjoyable RPGs that tried something new. This is just, bland, mediocre, just throwing a standard dungeon crawler together with sex to sell it. So it's like, I can like games like this. I just didn't like this one.
You're clearly not Japanese enough for this game.
No.
Joe Stratman.
Oh yes, clearly as Asian of a name as there ever was one, especially Henry Jones, my online monitor.
Exactly.
So, my fiance is walking in very confused.
Has she watched you play the game?
No. She is very shy about stuff. I mean, she will swear up a storm, but when we get into things that are like very awkward sexually, she'll just kind of freeze up. So I give her a break, and I just wait till she goes to bed before I get into, full blown playing through this game.
So you wait until the fiance is sleeping before you bust out the kinky sex game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that note, next game to talk about is called I Am Bread. Developed and published by Bossa Studios. It released January 20th on the Xbox for $12.99, finally making the leap after being on Steam and PlayStation for quite a while. You are bread. Your mission, become toast. Take on all hazards to deliciousness as you head on an epic adventure in one of the toughest games ever baked. All of the game modes, including Bagel Race, are now unlocked, so there's sure to be something to suit everyone's taste. If you have not heard of I Am Bread, it is fairly self-explanatory in that you are bread, and your goal, as stated, is to toast yourself, and you have to traverse across, a kitchen or a living room or whatever room you're in to make it to a heat source and toast both sides. Sounds easy enough until you realize that this is a game in the vein of stuff like Octodad or Quap, where if you're expecting good controls, you're out of your fucking mind. Have you had any hands-on time with this game at all? Or
I haven't played it myself, but I've
seen at least seen Shiz play it?
I didn't watch Shiz, but I've watched YouTubers play it before. I've seen a few hours of the game, honestly.
This
so
game, when you watch someone play it and you see them fucking up, you're going to be like, oh man, why can't you just hit the button, do this, do that. No, you're wrong. First off, you're wrong. You're always going to be wrong. This game will not do what you want it to do.
Exactly.
Secondly, you need to get comfortable having 4 fingers on the triggers and the bumpers at the same time, which I'm not used to doing. I'm used to just having, my pointer fingers up there and then nothing else. You need to have all 4 buttons covered basically at all times. This is one of those times where having an Elite controller and throwing paddles on the back actually makes it easier for gamers like me. Doesn't make the game easy, just makes it easier.
Yeah.
There's a handful of different ways that you can traverse around. Your bread can grip to walls, and it could ride skateboards, and this game is it's batshit crazy. And I mean that in a very, very good way. These guys are also the ones who made Surgeon Simulator, so they're clinically insane.
I love Surgeon Simulator. So.
Yeah. When you start the round, you could cover yourself in butter or jam to make yourself more tasty to get a better grade at the end. There are also a ton of different modes in the game. I actually have the game pulled up so I could cover them all. The story mode is basically you're the bread. You go through each of the different stages. The story is actually funny as hell because basically in between every stage you're reading the notes of a therapist because some guy is coming in and there's all these messes in his house that he doesn't remember doing, so he thinks he's insane, when in reality you're the bread and you're doing it. So this guy is losing his shit, not knowing what's going on. So that's hilarious right there. There's a bagel race, which is basically controlling a bagel around a race course in the different rooms in the house.
That's interesting.
Except you still have to control it with the triggers, so it's still ridiculously difficult to control.
Never seen that mode be played before. I think I've only seen the story mode. So.
Yeah, thankfully Bagel Race, and there's another one, Rampage. It only requires the triggers You don't need all 4 buttons. It only requires 2. Rampage, you control a baguette, and your goal is to just wreck shit. There's, stacks of dishes and glasses, and it just causes as much damage as you can.
I've seen a little bit, and it reminded me of like Dangerous Golf.
Yeah, except it controls horribly, and that's the point.
That's always fun.
There's a cheese hunt where you are a graham cracker or just some kind of cracker, and you have to travel around the room finding different hidden bits of cheese. There's like 5 in each stage, and you have to be careful because you're a cracker, and instead of getting dirty, you have to worry about shattering. So if you fall from big heights, you could, crack on the ground, and once you hit 0 durability or whatever, your game is over. There's free roam, which you could do whatever you want, and then there is a 0G mode, which I have not had a chance to try out yet, but I have tried the others. And then the Xbox version of the game also has Starch Wars, which is clearly a pun on Star Wars, where you control... it's basically like a third-person flight shooter. I've tried it a few times, but it just seems like I die nearly instantly every time. I've had a bitch of a time trying to evade I think it's cheese that comes after you. I can't evade them. I can't swing around and kill them. I didn't have that much fun with that. The rest of the game, it's just ridiculous. It's insane. It is hard to control, and it's a blast. It is hilarious to play. It's even better when you have company over and you're all just laughing and cursing and taking turns and failing miserably. In the vein of games like Octodad, I can't give it a buy it because there's so many people who can't get into games like these because of the controls. But that's kind of the point of the game. So I'm going to give it a hearty try it, but you got to know what you're getting into with this.
All right, fair enough. I know that there's people out there that aren't enjoying the game because they don't get into this. Like, Shiz did not like it at all.
Oh, I've seen a lot of people who have hated the game, and it's because they can't control it. And that's a fair gripe, but that's kind of what you're getting into when you buy a game like this.
Yeah, it's not something that you should be expecting to be easy.
Yeah.
I mean, just watch 5 minutes of it being played and you know what you're getting into.
It's one of those just frustration simulators. So, yeah, I give it a try. It's a lot of fun. It is hilarious, but it is definitely not for everyone. All right, next game to talk about is called Saban's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Mega Battle. Developed and published by Bandai Namco, released January 17th on Xbox and PS4 for $14.99, coming soon to Steam as well. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Mega Battle provides a creative and modern reimagining of the classic multiplayer beat-em-up genre. Level up your Rangers, team up with friends, summon the Megazord, and fight your way through levels stylized after classic Mighty Morphin Power Rangers episodes. Wood is back once again to hang out and talk about this one. So, Wood, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It is a little bit late on here, but you know what? I think it's worth it to be talking about this game. So yes.
I mean, it's been a whole maybe an hour since you've last been on the show.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, about an hour.
So I'm guessing.
Yeah, something like that.
It'd be great if it really was about an hour.
Oh, it would.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Actually, you said you wanted to talk about another game first, right?
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to talk about Nevermind a little bit.
Okay, well, what are your thoughts on Nevermind?
Buy it.
Okay. So back to Power Rangers. Tell us about Power Rangers Mega Battle.
Okay, so Power Rangers. Well, let's see if I can talk right now.
Power Wrangles.
Power Rangers Mega Battle, right? Okay, so here's the thing. It's a very fun beat 'em up. I love the animations. The animations are hilarious, by the way. They do a really good job of actually really capturing what makes. They really did a good job of actually capturing that first season of the Power Rangers, right? How
it was just fun and goofy, and it didn't take itself too seriously.
Absolutely. The combat in there is actually pretty fun. I've seen other streams before. If you guys know who IFC Yipes is of Marvel fame, or rather Marvel's Capcom thing. If you ever look at a video, it's Marvel's Capcom 2. Yipes! You'll be taken to one video of him doing commentary. It's fucking hilarious.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, look that up, and then he did a stream of a watch of this game, and so many Marvel jokes come out of it because there's so much that you can do with the combat in itself. It's like I was doing on my own stream was basically I was having so much fun taking a putty, hitting another putty with it, and then throwing that putty at another putty, right? Or trying to break your door open while holding a putty and slamming it against the door multiple times. There's a lot of cool stuff, but more than just throwing putties around. There are a couple enemies that it's just like any other beat 'em up, have a little bit of a puzzle aspect that forces you to be buried in your attack movements because they're weak to some things and strong to other things. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. Juggles are fun. The combat they nail the fun factor of the combat in that game. Sound effects sounds like it's taken straight from the show.
I want to say how much I enjoyed the gobbling of the putties.
Oh my god, they nailed that. Yeah, they nailed that so well.
So fucking funny.
I know, right?
I think they took actual voice clips from the show, from the original Rangers too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I definitely recognize that Radio Repulsa. Every single one of his lines sounded like it's straight from the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's that crazy lady with that gravelly voice is hilarious. So, I mean, the combat's fun. It's got moves fun in that game. My major gripe for this, other than no online co-op,
which I think has been the biggest gripe from everybody who's covered this game.
Yeah, and it's not really worth saying, dude, it should have been in this game. Dude, it's a $15 game. It is what it is. I mean, this is just more capturing this captures the fun of your original Ninja Turtles. It feels a lot honestly, Turtles in Time has that kind of feel to it, which is this is you and a buddy next to each other, bitching at each other. It's like, dude, why'd you take the health up, man? You're supposed to my health up. What are you doing? Right? I feel if I had a buddy there to do that, this game would be so much more fun. And unfortunately, it doesn't have the online co-op, but it'd be so much more fun with another person in your same vicinity on the couch playing this game. That really ups the fun factor big time. Would have been nice to have it online? It would have. But I mean, I'm not expecting miracles from again, $15 game.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, that's not even my major gripe. My major gripe is I think they did a really good job of capturing the campiness of the show, but they also captured how samey the show got too. Because I found myself starting to get really annoyed when I clear a screen only for more putties to show up and more enemies to show up and then continue to the next screen. And just it felt like it's well, I already know what's coming up. All right, so we're on the third stage. So here's the boss fight. I just wait for his animation so I know when to attack him. And then we're gonna get into the Megazord where I shoot him a bunch of times. And then there's the quick time event in the Megazord. I think that thing is probably the biggest downer for me is not being able to have direct control of the Megazord. And just how samey the game got within at least the first two levels, or rather the first two. Levels, mate, because I guess the main stages, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the better way of saying it, right? So it felt samey after a while, and now I think that's honestly a big problem. They also do a really good job of just writing Tommy's dick so fucking hard. Don't get me wrong. You got to keep this in mind, right? This is not on a game developer, because the game developer said, "Can you make a game that directly captures the show?" And unfortunately, they did such a good job. They ride Tommy's dick. Tommy is the best martial artist. He's the de facto leader of the team. He can do no wrong unless he's actually directly mind controlled. to the point where you shit, man. Every time like you see Tommy do something wrong, it's like it feels like, dude, what the fuck, man?
Well, what? In the original show, who was the red one? Jason? Was that?
Yeah, it was Jason.
He was supposed to be like the leader, but then he got in that pay dispute, and then him, Trini, and Zach quit the show like halfway through season 2.
Yeah,
and then they're like, "Oh, well, I guess Tommy's our number one guy then." Yeah,
I wasn't sure that was the reason behind it, or it's just like that kind of magnetic personality that Jason David Frank, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because legitimately that guy's like a fucking awesome dude in real life. That's the issue.
He is.
Yeah, that's so.
And he's an MMA fighter now, which is cool as shit.
And he's an MMA fighter. He's he's black belt jiu-jitsu, black belt I think he's like fifth level, like fifth dan karate, if not eighth dan. The guy's a legit martial artist, right?
Jeez.
And and apparently he's like just an all-around nice dude. So I mean, it's like shit, man. I would blame like all the dick riding on the fact that Tommy's like actually a fucking awesome dude.
Makes sense,
right? And again, like it's I'm not faulting the developers because again, like that's how the show was too. This show rode Tommy's dick so fucking hard.
So, if anything, the game is incredibly accurate.
Yes, absolutely. The game is very accurate. That's the best way I can describe it, really.
Oh, man.
So, it's, reality is, these are all kind of minor gripes, really. It's because, again, like, this is a game that's well worth, if you have that couch co-op, the game just opens up to be so much more fun.
So basically, it seems like a great beat 'em up, but friends are almost required.
Yeah, I would say that because you're not going to get your money's worth just playing it solo.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
I guess it's just a throwback to the older days of gaming where it was about having a group of friends come over and play through a beat 'em up.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's shit, man. Like it's just like I would actually say like it harkens back even to the arcade days.
Yeah.
Where like you can actually just straight up make friends where these guys like in his beat 'em up trying to beat through, and it's not like actually a shoot 'em up where a guy's like actually going for fucking score. Like you can say like, dude, man, hey, mind if I jump in? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Let's fucking beat up Shredder, man.
Shredder, man. Man, like 20 credits in, man. Let's do it, man.
Pizza power, bro.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Pizza, man. I was like half loud. What the fuck?
I legit miss those arcade days where you could just find random people playing X-Men or Ninja Turtles or The Simpsons or any of those older Konami beat-em-ups in arcades and just drop in some quarters and play with them. They didn't care. Yeah. They were just happy to play with someone else.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think this is a throwback to that sort of era of gaming.
So
which good or bad is what it is.
Yeah. It sounds like overall this one kind of warrants a try it, a bigger try it if you have friends, and if they decide to add online, it turns into a buy it.
Oh, no, absolutely. It absolutely does.
Man, such a shame it doesn't have online.
I know, but I mean, again, like it's considering. Real talk. Like, does this feel like it's definitely a tie-in to the upcoming movie? Oh, it absolutely is.
Mm-hmm.
Would I call it a straight cash in? Not really, because again, like if it was like one of these cop outs for like money grabs, it'd be trying to like emulate whatever trailer nonsense they have for the new ones.
True.
No, this is just a straight throwback to, hey man, we're watching Power Rangers, and people like me, like, I would never admit that, but sure.
I would never admit that. Oh man. Well, Wood, I appreciate you doing the review for this one. Do you have any final words on it?
Nah, man, it's fun. Buy Nevermind. That's the other thing.
Next game to talk about is called Wells, developed and published by Tower Up Studios. This one released January 30th on Xbox One for $9.99. Wells is an action side-scrolling game with 3D graphics. Its style is a direct reference to a classic subgenre of games that was popular in the 90s, the run and gun. Prepare yourself for facing hordes of enemies, explosions, gigantic bosses, and a dangerous and fascinating journey into a steampunk universe. CJ, you covered this one. What are your thoughts?
Wells is a run and gun action platformer. I believe the main thing that'll draw people to the game is the steampunk art style. The game looks very cool. Every background is very unique, and each level has a different feel and look to it, and the bosses look awesome. The only thing that's kind of off is the cutscenes. They are a bit odd compared to how the gameplay looks. I can't really put my finger on why. It's just weird. The gameplay is pretty solid for a run and gun game. The tutorials teaches you the basics, like how to shoot and duck, and how bullets can bounce, but doesn't teach you some of the advanced stuff or tell you how levers work. No, seriously. I was messing around for a few minutes trying to figure out how to use a lever in the game.
Really?
Yeah, apparently if you get close enough to a lever, instead of shooting, you can melee with RT, but the game never told me that. So I was trying to shoot the lever or press any button, none of the face buttons were working, and it's just it's because it changes.
Fucking do something.
Exactly, it changes your weapon to a melee weapon when you're close to something. The melee also works like that for enemies, but melee feels useless and completely get in your way rather than being actually helpful, because rather than shooting, if they get close enough, you just attempt to hit them, but you don't really do much with it. It doesn't do a lot of damage. The other problem with the melee is that it doesn't knock down enemies, but their melee attacks will knock you down, so you can be shot a few times. That doesn't really make sense. I wish that if I meleeed somebody, maybe they'd get knocked down too, so I could shoot them. Throughout the game, you'll unlock 5 different weapons to use. You start with a bouncing shot pistol, which deals good damage to standard enemies. However, once you unlock what looks like a Tommy gun that shoots lasers, you'll never use the pistol again. There's also a few other weapons, but leave something to be discovered in the game.
You didn't mess with the other weapons much, did you?
No, you have to, actually. There's a lot of situations in where there's weapons that are actually specific for certain situations. Okay, fine. There's like a grenade launcher, but you can really only use the grenade launcher to kill the shield guys. They won't take damage from anything else because they have a shield
basically
up.
Specific use weapons.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have them in certain situations. If there's a shield guy, the only way you can kill him is to attach a bomb to his shield and then blow it up. But there's also an acid gun that you can shoot onto metal enemies, and it messes them up and makes them vulnerable for an attack. It doesn't actually damage them itself. It makes them so that you can actually kill them with something else, because otherwise they don't take damage. There isn't much of a variety when it comes to enemies. You'll be killing the same guys throughout most of the game, with the occasional new enemy being introduced every few levels. The game is enjoyable for a bit, but it quickly becomes exhausting due to the checkpoint system and how long some of the levels carry on. The checkpoints in the game are far too few, and when I'd die in the game, I'd be guaranteed to at least have 1 or 2 more deaths because I'd get annoyed and try to rush through everything to get back to where I was. Which adds just more frustration. There are 10 levels in the game, and by the level 7, I was pleading that it would just end. It is never good. It's never a good sign when you want a game to end earlier than it does because you're tired of playing it.
Yeah.
I'd say the one thing that I really did enjoy was the boss fights. Granted, that's the same few bosses recycled throughout all the game, and the only thing that changes is the environments and how you fight them. But the only boss fight I didn't find enjoyable was the final boss fight because of how difficult it sorta was. See, it wasn't actually difficult, it was quite doable. The problem is the extreme frame rate issues making it very difficult to avoid the boss's attacks. For some reason, the last boss it's like hell on the Xbox One, and it just can't do it. I don't know what's up with the game, but it is laggy as hell. It makes it very difficult to actually kill him, and also makes it quite frustrating because it's well, I would have been able to avoid it if perhaps I could have moved.
No.
Overall, I'd say I I have to give this game a hesitant try it. It is fun for a bit, but don't expect a game that's going to blow you away.
Yeah, I mean, the game looks good. I mean, visually, I enjoy the style of it.
Yeah, I love the way it looks, but gameplay-wise, it's pretty weak.
Final game to talk about this is... Shut up, CJ. Final game to talk about this week is called The Assembly, developed and published by N-Dreams. It released January 20th on the Xbox One for $29.99. Previously available on PS4 and Steam, including VR releases. A first-person interactive story for mature audiences. The Assembly immerses you in the morally challenging world of a secret organization. Play as two individuals from contrasting perspectives where you will face trials, investigate the Assembly's secret bunker, and make tough decisions. Will your actions and their repercussions save lives or lead to catastrophe? The Assembly, you can tell right away this game was designed for VR. Like 100%. From the moment like you hit start and parts of the UI are kind of off screen because you have to because it's expecting you to be looking up and down. You can tell this was made for VR. It doesn't hinder the experience that you're not in VR, but I can absolutely expect that if you played this in VR, it would lead to a more enriching experience or a more satisfying game experience. The game itself, first-person puzzle game or puzzle adventure game, where some areas you're going to be just walking around offices and looking for ingredients or looking for clues or just exploring things, finding dossiers, progressing the story. There's other segments where you're going to be doing various trials and puzzles, whether it's like sliding block puzzles or like kind of like those light 'em up where you hit one block and like the ones around it go out, or solving like a murder mystery. There's so many different elements to this game that put together, it really does keep things fresh as you go through it. I know a lot of first-person adventure games can get kind of stale by the end. You're just like, oh my god, more story, let's get on with this. But the Assembly does a really good job of keeping things fresh as you're going through. The story begins with you. There's basically two stories in the game. One of a woman who was basically kidnapped after her mother dies, and you were abducted by this organization to be initiated into their group. And the other is one of the guys, the other side of the story is one of the guys of that organization who is trying to uncover a secret plot of research that he's done in the past that has been brought back for some reason. So there's two completely different stories that they kind of meet up in the middle a little bit, but they're still fairly segregated for the most part. It mentions making tough choices. A lot of that basically comes down to the very last chapter, or last two chapters. There's a segment where you can adjust a computer's AI, and that'll have an impact on some of the final things you do in the game. And then there's actual choices that you make in the very last chapter as the other character that determine, they kind of go telltale with it, where at the very end it says like a percentage did this, a percentage did this.
That's cool.
It's a fairly short game. I completed it in about 6 hours. If you're rushing through it, if you're not paying attention to like doing the various side missions or finding all the collectibles, you could probably blaze through it in like 3 or 4. I did hit a snag after chapter 6. My game just locked up, and that revealed one of my biggest problems with this game is there are no mid-level checkpoints. If you start a chapter, you need to start the next chapter to save your progress. Like, it was loading chapter 7, and I had, it just crashed, so I went to dashboard, went back in, and it started me on chapter 6 at the very beginning.
That sucks.
Yeah, that sucked. Thankfully, despite it originally being a fairly long chapter for me, I was able to just blaze through it. Like, there's a good chance if you mean to just speed run this your second time through, like if you miss something and you just want to rush through all the chapters, although it has a chapter select, so I don't know why you would rush through the whole game, but you could probably speed run it in maybe an hour and a half.
Wow.
The $30 price tag is definitely a holdover from the fact that this is a VR game first. It is on sale right now on PlayStation 4 this week. So if you're listening to this after the fact, like next week, or if it's not the first weekend of February when you're hearing this, you're missing out on the sale. But it's $20 on PlayStation 4 VR right now. I would probably recommend getting this on a VR platform, especially for $20. $30 on the Xbox if it's your only solution. It's a fun game, a good story, entertaining, but $30 just seems high. So it's a try it, but if you could get it on VR, go with VR.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'm definitely interested in the game. I want the 1,000 gamer score.
It's a fairly easy completion. There's a couple of tricky things in the game that if you're not exploring enough or not using a guide, you'll probably miss. I pretty much tried to go through this blind. The only time I used a guide was I was completely stuck trying to find ingredients on the one chapter. And I busted out a guide just to find out where the fuck those ingredients were.
I don't blame you. Sometimes it gets to a point where it takes too long to figure it out. You'd rather just continue moving.
Like, I got shit to do.
Exactly.
So, yeah, pretty good week of games. A lot of stuff we covered. Overall, good stuff. And that Nevermind, and you're going to have to go back and listen to that Nevermind interview because that was really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't home yesterday. I was out forever.
Yeah. So thanks again to Erin of Flying Mollusk for joining us. Thanks to Wood and Cole for being there for the interview. For Chris for dropping by. And whoever else I have interview or reviews from on this episode. Because I completely did not edit any of this.
Nope, it's all one episode.
Completely. Totally. Music this week, fuck, I don't even know what music I'm going to play. So here's some music. Enjoy it.
Cold see.